The government remains shut down, although you might not notice it because it's weird the mainstream media has not been covering this in a way that they have in the past, especially with Republican congressmen and Republican presidents. We're going to talk just a bit about why that actually might be. We'll talk about what's upcoming, what kinds of things governments are doing to make people feel the pain, to make sure that you know for sure that the government is shut down, and you know who to blame possibly as well. But we'll talk about all of that, what's coming up with that, and where that goes. In other news, you may not have noticed it even if you've traveled through a major metropolitan area on Saturday, but there was actually another No Kings protest that happened. They're saying 7 million people. Other people are saying 650,000 people nationwide. I don't know. I didn't go. I had to work. But we'll talk about some of the stuff that happened there, some of the narratives that are being pushed, and where this goes with the rest of it. On other news, California's redistricting battle has drawn $140 million in spending as we go full swing into the early voting for Prop 50 in California. We'll talk about what's happening with that and what the likely outcome is, especially given some things that are starting to be brought up on this one. And John Bolton is officially charged and has pled not guilty to his charges of espionage, while the DOJ, with the direction of Jim Jordan, has been referred another criminal complaint, this time against CIA Director Brennan. So we'll talk about what's happening with that, where we go, and what we do from there. It is going to be all of this and more over here on Contemporary. So strap yourselves in, find a few friends, text everybody you know, because there's going to be a challenge coming up on the other side of the break. Hopefully that challenge puts a little bit more money in my pocket. We'll talk about that in just a moment, but we will see you on the other side of the title card. And, well, I tried to tell you so, but I guess you didn't know. As the saddest story goes, baby, now I got the flow. 'Cause I knew it from the start, baby, when you broke my heart, that I had to come again and show you that I'd win. I am J. Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Well, hi. Good morning. Hello. How does the meme go? Good morning. Hi. Hi. Good morning. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is J. Edgar, and we have got another epic, historic week. For somebody who does this every week, and yes, you can go ask Palm. I have brought up the fact that sometimes this is actually starting to get just a little bit tiring in the midst of all this, because like every single week is an epic news story that is one for the history books. And you know, when people come back and start to study contemporary, or when it gets to be ancient times, early 21st century history, you know, when we get down to the 23rd century, or I mean, if we're still a society in the 23rd century or whatnot, yeah, there'd be the section on the years I would say probably 2012 the way things are going up until 2030 is just going to be this thick. And you actually get a book on that, and it's not just a digital thumb drive. And I mean the digital thumb drive is going to be huge. It's going to be like this. Just because every single day, it's another thing that's for the history books. This is a historical injustice. What a historical tyrant. What a historical rally. What a historical this. What a historical that. And I'm going to be completely honest, sometimes I don't think it's that much historical as it is hysterical. Just putting that out there. But we do have a lot to go over here today. As teased on the first side of the title card, I found out, and I did not know this, lived in this house for almost a year at this point, with the love of my life and her lovely daughter, who has basically become my daughter, that my daughter has a ukulele, and it's not just any ukulele. It's a Frozen ukulele, which, I mean, those of you who've been here for a long time know I love stringed instruments. I've played guitar, I've played bass, I want to learn how to play double bass, and I have always wanted to learn how to play ukulele. Banjo too, but there isn't a banjo in this house. So I see this thing, I gave it some plucking. Oh look, it showed up. The Frozen ukulele. So, challenge mode coming in, saying that if we can get to a point, and I know it's going to double show, so we'll have the picture-in-picture go. No, I won't actually, because I don't have the screen. Well, no, I have to get the screen up. Let's put the news scene up for just a second. Put this over here. We'll get a little bit of screen for a moment, but transition this over here. And yeah, that's what everything is going on here. But if you get the subscribers here, and we'll get that, it's screening. But if that number hits 20 in a month, which they expire after a month, I'm going to plan on learning how to play this and how to do it and what the chords are. I mean, I know how to play stringed instruments, but I will learn how to do what the chords are. Transition this one back here. And I will play this very ukulele on air. Song has been chosen already. It is going to be the Hawaiian version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And that will be what I do. If you can get 20 people paying me, I will learn how to play this very ukulele right here in my hand. Needs to be tuned. And I'm not sure if this is actual active string, because it looks like fish line. But I've never had a ukulele, so that actually might be correct for all I know. If not, we'll go and get some strings, because, hell, in the city that's closest to us, there are probably 5 or 6 different music stores that I can probably go get strings for it for. So, yes, that is your challenge. 20 paying subscribers within 30 days of each other. And I will play that ukulele on stream. Proudly. You're getting good on that voice. I don't know. Maybe it's the Return of the Mac lyrics. What's funny is I was thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, that'll be a good one for Return of the King, but I'm like, half the lyrics of this song are just Return of the Mac over and over again. But I did think that reading the verse, which is actually kind of deep, I'm not going to lie, is probably more intelligent than Return of the Mac, there it is. Return of the Mac, come on. Return of the Mac, oh my god. You know that I'll be back, here I am. Much more intelligent. Anyway, we got a lot of stuff to go over here today, so we're going to get right down into it. Let's just check on the live chat. By the way, if you like what you see, I know a lot of people say like, subscribe, click the bells, click the buttons, click the notification, etc. If we're live, and I'm going to tell you a dirty little secret, these people that are out there that are saying like, subscribe, and everything, yes, they want that to pad out their numbers because it gives them a certain sense of popularity that they think that they've earned a lot. The best that you can do for a live streamer is chat. I've watched the algorithm, I've watched where the views go up, where there's more active people, I've watched where the views drop as people, get out to go to work, and it goes exponentially back down. The best thing you can do and this how the algorithm on YouTube and Twitch works. Paying subs, which is why we're doing the challenge over on Twitch, because I'm not taking YouTube money for a reason. Twitch is a little bit more lenient, so I'll let them take half of whatever we get. But for Twitch, it's paying subs and chatter. And with YouTube, it's just chatter. I believe on Rumble, the algorithm also goes on chatter, and Kick, the algorithm goes on chatter. So, yes, for your favorite streamer, the more text boxes hit in the live chat, the better off we're going to do, and the bigger reach we're going to have out here. So, tell me what it is you think, even if you hate what it is that I'm doing. Your hate comments fuel me as well. So, anyway, let's get down into the news of the day. We're going to start our day with a finance. Actually, we're on the scrap metal prices right now, which I'm going to explain why I pay attention to that. I pay attention to that, by the way, on and off with stream, because I've always found that to be a very, very good indicator of the economy on the ground. Quest Fanning has joined us. Actually, let's check in with the live chat. I ask you guys to chat, and then I don't go back in and check in with what it is that you guys are saying. Palm was first. Master Control shows nobody else before her, so Lecaster says, "Hey, I'm a streamer. I love to be a friend, and I want to play together. Add me on Discord. Sniper _ 5006. Whereas if Lecaster actually was a Kick streamer, he would know that you can go right on my links in Kick and join my Discord. And, well, if you're anywhere to the left of W, you're probably going to be scarred for life. I'm just saying. Actually, no, it's fine. And there are people that are in there that are cool about it too, that I know are more to the left. And they come in and they don't really chat a lot, but when they do, they hold their own. So I like that. We had a good group of people. And Ceaseless says, "Would you like mini viewers? Let's make you popular," with a link that we're totally going to go and click, by the way. Absolutely, totally. And no, Ceaseless Heftab 77 NIUNZ has been muted. We don't ban, we mute. Because if they clean up their act, they can come back. But if they're just going to come back out and bot, then you're gone. You're going away. Palm says, "You're getting good at that voice." That's cool. And Quest Fanning has joined us here with the crown for the king. Because I texted him telling him that we're going and doing this, and I said that I will be his king. I'll be the king of contemporary. Well, I kind of am the king of contemporary. So, thank you for the advertisement and the post over on the X side, because I'm definitely shadow banned over there. So we'll go back and get that reposted out here, and let's get started. Looking at the Dow today, which took a spike up and then a spike right back down. Let's pull this out 5 days and have a look and see what's going on with that. Looking like it took a nice big soar, in spite of the fact that we're under 22 days of government shutdown right now. It took a nice big soar, and then now it's starting to falter again over about the last 2 or 3 days. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on with that and where that goes. Let's grab one from... There's last night, so we'll grab that one. And... well, that's a live updater, but we'll see if that actually works. IBD has always been hit or miss. Sometimes they go behind a paywall, and sometimes they don't. So last night's news first. Dow closes down 300 points on trade fears and latest earnings from Sean Conlon and Pia Singh. Let's get the rest of the chat back up here. Looks like you got a couple of eyes over on Rumble. That'd be cool. U.S. equities fell on Wednesday as new development out of Washington exacerbated concerns among investors. Wow, I can already not talk this morning. Among U.S. investors about U.S.-China trade relations, disappointing corporate earnings from companies including Texas Instruments and Netflix also weighed on the major averages. Well, the right-wing people told everybody to go cancel Netflix again, so that's, I think, part of what's weighing over on Netflix right now. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed lower by 334.33 points, or 0.71%, at 46,590.41. The S&P fell 0.53% to finish at 66,99.40, while the Nasdaq shed 0.93% to settle at 22,740.40. At session lows, the Dow was down more than 400 points, or about 1%, while the S&P and the Nasdaq decreased 1.2% and 1.9% respectively. Stocks remained under pressure. Cue that baseline. Under pressure. After Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent confirmed that the White House is weighing curbs on exports to China made with the U.S. software. Reuters had first reported the move on Wednesday. The development came after President Trump, almost 2 weeks ago, said the U.S. would implement export restrictions by November 1st on any and all critical software. Which I'm not 100% sure what it is that China needs with our software, but apparently they need something. Everybody needs something, man. Earlier in the day, equities had already taken a leg lower, hurt by Texas Instruments dropping 5.6% after the semiconductor company's latest earnings came in weaker than expected. The company's fourth quarter earnings forecast was soft as well. Now, I hate it when my fourth quarter earnings are soft. It really puts a damper on my night. I didn't even know Texas Instruments, by the way, was still a thing. I mean, if you're about my age, which I'm 41, if you're about my age, you know that every single teacher out there wanted you to go out and buy the super expensive Texas Instruments 80 to 82 graphing calculator. I think they went up to 83 at some point. And that's like the last you heard of mainstream commercial Texas Instruments. And I'm sure that you can probably still go get a TI. They're probably in the hundreds now. But realistically, what is your TI 83 going to do that this won't? For free. That thing was expensive, dude. That thing was like $50 in the 90s, in the late 90s. I can't imagine what inflation and Bidenflation would do to the price now. Texas Instruments also plagued the broader semiconductor sector. On semiconductor, declined almost 6%. AMD slipped more than 3%. Micron Technology, as well as the Van Eck Semiconductor ETF, slid about 2%. Netflix shares also held back the market. The streaming platform slumped 10% after earnings missed estimates due to a dispute with Brazilian tax authorities. Yeah, that's not the only reason that's going on by there. TI-84 was the best they made, and it was about $100 in 07. I own like 5 of them now. And a reminder, you can own 5 of them, and this will still do more than all 5 of them combined. Plus, you can play Final Fantasy on this. Oh, look. It woke up enough you could see Palm's face. It's beautiful. Intuitive Surgical was a bright spot on Wednesday, with shares rallying nearly 14% on the back of strong earnings and revenue. Investors are now looking ahead to some upcoming earnings reports that could offer a boost to equities. For instance, Tesla's earnings expected Wednesday. After the bell, will kick off highly awaited reports from the Magnificent Seven mega cap tech group. I thought Magnificent Seven was a Quentin Tarantino movie. Oh, you got an 84 in high school. I had an 83 for calculus in high school. I guess middle school, but as it stands, more than 3/4 of the S&P 500 companies that have posted results so far have beaten expectations, according to FactSet. So that is what we have going on with that. Let's look at today's live updater. As soon as I find my cursor. Which, by the way, now that the tax stuff is coming in, one of the things that we're looking at right now is changing over some of these television sets to actual monitors, especially since I'm pretty sure the backlight is out in my middle one here, or half the backlight, because where I go to hit the X on the top of the screen to go into the next story is it's hard for me to see. And part of that is because it's right in front of the microphone too. So, but it's very dim over there. I think part of the backlight went to crap. I do have a new one coming. That's going to be on things that I like, by the way. We're going to be talking about eBay again. Highleaf has joined us. Howdy, how have you been? Welcome back, Highleaf. Highleaf 11, known in the Discord as Golden Leaf. Been doing good. It's been an interesting year, but I think we're out of the thick of it at this point. And the Damned Man has joined us as well. The Damned Man just recently joining the Discord and weighing in on his stuff. By the way, at the bottom of the show, we'll go over the challenge and why there's a frozen ukulele on my desk right now. Pom thinks it's funny. And she might tell you in the midst of chat too, but I'm not going to interrupt the flow of the news for that. Alright, from IBD. Live coverage. Stock market today. Dow Jones Index starts to gain as Tesla dives on earnings. Well, that's sort of the opposite of what CNBC said was going to happen last night now, isn't it? From Scott Latonin, the Dow Jones Industrial Average and other major stock indices reversed from pre-market losses and ventured into positive ground in early action Thursday. Meanwhile, Tesla plunged on the stock market today after the company reported disappointing third quarter results. Yeah, it's probably not really good when 95% of your target audience suddenly thinks that your CEO is a Nazi. Just after the opening bell, the Dow ticked higher, gaining 0.1%, while the S&P rose 0.2%, and the tech-heavy NASDAQ added 0.2% in morning trading. And then it kind of dropped right back off, didn't it? The 10-year Treasury yield was up to 3.99%, which is down from where it was throughout the entire Biden presidency, by the way. And oil prices jumped. West Texas Intermediate crude futures traded around $61.40 a barrel, which explains why gas went up 20 cents. The day that my tank was empty. Bastards. President Trump targeted Russia's petroleum industry with new sanctions on oil companies, Rosneft and Lukoil in an attempt to end the war in Ukraine. Among ETFs, the Invesco QQQ Trust was also up 0.5%, while the S&P 500 SPDR moved up 0.4% after Thursday's market open. The NASDAQ winners and losers, Diamondback and Roper. Among the NASDAQ 100 stocks, Diamondback Energy and Constellation Energy rallied more than 4% and nearly 2% respectively, making them some of the best performers in the market open. Meanwhile, Roper Technologies and ON Semiconductor tumbled 9% more than 1% respectively. So, got a few things that are moving right now, but we got to move off the markets. I want to do just a couple of updates on everything else. About the midst of the COVID, I started watching this, and then we kind of fell off of it for a little while because everything started looking good and there was no real up and down to it. But I always like to look and see, because I have found that scrap metal pricing is a very good indicator of where the market is, where the economy is for the bottom sector of it. So we've been watching this week over week, seeing where the prices go up and down. I actually used to do this every day and see where it went daily. Right now, aluminum cans are in the positive, but one of the things that I've noticed, and it was a conversation we had when we moved into this house, because it was admittedly a little bit of a struggle, making the shift from $800 a month rent to almost $2,000 in mortgage. It was a little bit of a shock to the system, but I think we've figured out how to get beyond that and what to do with that, and a few other things have changed in the household. But one of the things that I brought up was, hey, let's save the aluminum cans because we all love canned soda in this house. And canned Yoo-hoo, by the way. That stuff is awesome. So let's save the cans. They pay us X amount a pound for this, and we'll crush them because we've got a 10-year-old to go make the stomp on them. We'll crush them. That way we can fit more in a bag and then bring it all over to the recycling center and see what it is that they'll give it to us. And I've been doing this for years. I just never crushed it. I never crushed the cans. I just threw them in the bag and went. But I mean, you go to the recycling center. It's not much because aluminum's really light, but you get this big bag, tall kitchen bag. That's $4 in your hand, or it was last summer when prices were down still. And with prices going up, yeah, $5-6 is not unreasonable per bag. And right now I've got 2 of them since June. Because like I said, in this house we like canned soda. So just kind of watching the charts and seeing where things are charting up right now. It looks like everything is charting up. What that tells me, and the reason that I do this, is when everything goes down, like I said, a lot of people drink canned soda, find cans on the ground. You don't find a lot of copper or anything else, but other people go back and hunt for that stuff. But cans is always a good indicator. Cans start to go down when the economy goes down because everybody saves up their cans and they all go bring them in hoping to get some sort of a return off of them. You get an influx of aluminum and they don't need as much anymore to go make manufactured goods. When stuff starts to dry up, when stuff starts to look good, the supply starts to dry up and the suppliers start looking for ways to incentivize people to sell more cans, so the price goes up. Because they need more cans on their yards. So right now things are looking up, which is telling me that at least for the bottom level of people, as much as MSNBC likes to tell you that the economy is in the tank right now, things are starting to look in the positive direction as far as economics go. So we'll continue to watch this every week and see where it goes. Catalytic converters are flat right now. Car and truck batteries are about flat right now. Cast iron is down because people are saving those pans. Brass is down. Tubing. Yeah, the copper and stuff people don't know enough about to be able to do that effectively. But yeah, everybody's got soda cans in their house. Or beer cans if you're Quest fanning. I'd like to make some canned beer. I want to do that this winter. See if I can get the ingredients. I have the equipment. Well, I don't have a bottling wand or anything, but I have the equipment to make beer. I just don't know what ingredients to go get. All right, last one. Audience participation on this one. Any polls that you want to see aggregated? I will take the first 3 if you want to see, but we'll kind of look and see on the latest polls here. Just looking at what's going on. New Jersey is in play right now. The latest poll from Rutgers shows Cheryl, the Democrat, up 5 points. President Trump job approval from left-leaning Gallup is disapproved 13%, but from Rasmussen, which is typically more center of the road, is disapprove plus 2%. And Reuters Ipsos and Quinnipiac, also more left-leaning typically, show disapprove in the double digits for President Trump. So I think that's what we're going to look at. But if you see any other polls or anything else that you're watching at this point, we'll look at a couple of the other aggregates. I know the J. Jones one is on everyone's mind right now. So on the aggregate, President Trump's job approval is disapprove 51.7 to 45.3% approved. It's about a 6.4% spread. Although if you go on social media, you're going to see only people citing Economist, Quinnipiac, Reuters, or Gallup. Or you'll find the right-wing influencers saying, look at this Daily Mail poll, look at this RMG research poll, because it shows them above water. All right, let's see if we can find a Newsom approval rating. For the damned man. Let's see. I don't think so, because I think it's all governors, but let's put Newsom. No, it looks like anything that they're showing is 2024 Trump versus Newsom in a presidential. So before they dedicated out Kamala Harris. I want to look at the J. Jones one for just a moment. Mayaris versus Jones, which Mayaris is walking away with that one. It looks like Mayaris in Virginia with the Beltway is still up 2.7%. Apparently, you cannot go out and threaten to kill your political opposition's kids and hope to still win your race. Who would have thought? Mayaris is up 2.7 points in the aggregate, with almost every poll showing him above water, going all the way back to a Christopher Newport University, which was before the scandal with the text messages, showing Jones +6. So, charting that one has got to be fun for the statisticians, because yeah, I'm sure a lot of people don't really want to look at this. Spanberger is actually set to win governor, so possible Virginia Democrat governor versus Republican AG. That'd be a fun one to sit back there and watch. I know Spanberger wants to sit and see Jones sitting in the AG spot desperately, but it's looking right now. Typically, these things do skew to the left, so I think it's still competitive at this point. But right now, looking at the numbers, it is looking like Winsome Earl Sears may not have a chance at the governor's mansion this time through. That's what we have for that. That's the big one to sit back and watch. New York City Mayor Mamdani is taking that one, walking away too. An AARP poll, that's funny. Mamdani is up on the aggregate 17.4 points for New York City. I guess we're going to get to see what government-run grocery stores look like. I'm interested. Alright, anyway. Those are your polls for the day. Let's get into the main news of the day. Still find it funny. Going back and just the way CNN tries to present this as this is a major wartime thing. It's day 22. We want to sit down and report on the government shutdown. But we can't because the polls are sitting here showing that it favors Republicans at this point. We're losing hope that we can control the narrative on this. But not all hope is lost. Please send support. Please send rations as we go back into the trenches for day 23. So this is a live updater right now. We're actually going to look at just a couple stories off this one as well. But government shutdown and Trump admin news from Maureen Chowdhury, Elise Hammond, Tori B. Powell, and Aditya Sangal. We got a funding bill blocked, NATO leader at the White House, and more airport delays with the FAA showing short staffing because, hey, if you're not getting paid, why would you go to work? Highleaf says, what ration would CNN eat? And I would say, purified cow manure. Otherwise known as pure bullshit. Alright, Johnson says he's opened a meeting with Grijalva after refusing to swear her in. Because that fight is still going on. House Speaker Mike Johnson said today that he would be open a meeting with Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva, whom he has yet to swear into Congress amid the ongoing government shutdown. I do have to go back and check my own research on this because I was to the understanding that any federal judge could go back and do that. I was to the understanding the Speaker of the House did not need to swear this particular representative in. I could be wrong. And I'd be willing to accept it if I am wrong, by the way. Absolutely. I'm always open to meet with any member of the House, Johnson said when asked by CNN's Caitlin Collins if he'd meet with Grijalva. The speaker then went on to say, I've been a little busy. I've been working about 22-hour days right now. Okay, Palm actually set the record straight. Thank you for that. Any federal judge can if the speaker selects them. Okay, so there was an extra step in there. I thought it was just any federal judge could swear in a member of Congress. I did not know about the extra step of the speaker having to select them. Thank you. Fact checks are always welcome. Alright, let's have a look. Quest Fang says if he gets much done, it'll show how terrible Dems have become. However, I doubt he'll get much change done. He has less support than he thinks in the city council. How can they scan crush cans? Quest Fanning actually brings up a very good point because he lives in a state that has bottle and can return. Correct? I know you're right above or right below Mass, and Mass does, and I think most of New England does. But yes, if I remember correctly, New York also has can returns, so we don't crush the cans because we don't put them in the machine to get them scanned to get our deposit back. We just take the aluminum over to the recycling center and they weigh it up and say, okay, here you go, and send it back. So they just take the raw aluminum. We don't put a deposit down and we don't get a deposit back. I wonder, and I've never looked into this before, even though I've lived in a state that had bottle deposit. I lived in Massachusetts for 2 years. I wonder how the bottle deposit profits waver with an economy as well. I remember when I lived out there, and I mean, we were all working, but rent was outrageous out there. But we would save up all the beer bottles, all the cans, all the everything else, bring them all over at once to do everything, and use all the money to go back and buy more beer. Because we were between 19 and 22, and that's what you do at that age. Grijalva later said she no longer wants to meet with Johnson, citing Arizona's lawsuit against the House representatives over the speaker's refusal to swear her in. At this point, once we filed the lawsuit, I don't think it's advisable for me to have a private conversation with him now, Grijalva told Collins. Which is actually true, by the way. If they are in an active lawsuit, then no, she should not be meeting with the leader of the government body that she is currently suing. I don't know. I'd be curious if that brings up a conflict of interest of her being seated or not, because of the fact that there's an open lawsuit. Be something else I'd like to look into. Maybe I should go to law school, you guys, because I have so many questions just from doing this that I don't know the answer to. Buy more beer, says the guy who doesn't really drink beer. I enjoy beer sometimes, but it was cheap and it got you drunk quick when I was young. Quest Fanning still likes beer. Just like Brett Kavanaugh. Alright, so that is the live updater. From the Daily Wire. CNN poll says shutdown is not playing well for Dems and Trump's doing just fine. Unfortunately, that's the reason I had RCP up, is because I wanted to see if there was an aggregate on that, and no, there is not an aggregate on this particular polling. The reason I use aggregating is because, as we were talking about with some of the wild swings, you can make polls say literally whatever it is that you want by choosing the people that you poll. And CNN is going to do the same thing, although if CNN is choosing the people they poll and it's looking dismal for them, then there's a reason that we're not seeing a lot of coverage on the government shutdown. Quest says New Jersey Chase will do for New Jersey what Pennsylvania Chase did for Pennsylvania. Cliff Maloney is the man. Kevin on his calendars. I remember his calendars. The latest CNN poll suggests that despite their attempts to spin a very different narrative, Democrats are not coming off as the winners as the government shutdown drags on, and President Trump is not losing any ground at all. CNN's chief data analyst, Harry Enton, broke down the details alongside anchor John Berman, saying that there was a world of difference between the way voters viewed their current shutdown compared to how they'd viewed the 35-day shutdown stretching from December 22nd, 2018 to January 15th, 2019 during Trump's first term. Let's watch.
That's exactly right. Turns out shutdowns are different the second time around when it comes to Donald Trump. Take a look here. You know, we speak about Donald Trump shutdowns, net approval rating. We're talking 20 days into it. In 2018/2019, Donald Trump's net approval rating was already falling. The shutdown was eating into his popular support. It was down 3 points already at this particular point and would fall considerably more. It was very much on the decline. You come over to this side of the screen. This shutdown hasn't eaten into Donald Trump's support at all. His net approval rating is actually up a point in terms of his popular support. So the bottom line is this. The first shutdown during Trump's first term, 2018-2019, was hurting Donald Trump. This one is not hurting him at all. There's no real reason Donald Trump might say, at least when it comes to popular support, I want to get out of this shutdown.
What about the question of blame?
Yeah, okay. What about the question of blame? Okay, you see here, you see Donald Trump's net approval rating was down 2018 to 2019. You talk about 2025 as net approval rating is up. It comes down to the blame game, a game I loved to play when I was younger. Blame Trump for the shutdown, a great deal. In 2018/2019, 61%, more than 3 in 5 Americans blame Trump, a great deal for that particular shutdown. You come over to this side of the screen, look at this. It's a different world. It's a different world. 48% of Americans blame Trump a great deal for this particular shutdown. So it's more than 3 in 5 back in 2018/2019. It's less than half, a drop of 13 points. Again, it's no real wonder that Donald Trump at this point, looking at the shutdown, says, you know what, it's not actually harming me politically, in large part because he's getting less of the blame.
And he's doing things differently during this shutdown.
Yes, exactly right. You know, we talk about Donald Trump and you say, okay, he wants to be a consequential, influential president. Well, if the legislative process is basically freezed up, you know, on Capitol Hill, you may say, well, then he can't actually get legislation through. But that's not how Trump is governing in this term. We've spoken about this over and over and over again. He's using his pen. He's using executive orders. Trump executive orders at this point of presidency. In 2017, it was just 50. Look at this. Already 210 executive orders signed by Donald Trump during this presidency. That is the most in a year. You have to go all the way back since Franklin Delano Roosevelt to find a president who signed more executive orders in a year than Donald Trump has already signed this time around. And remember, John Berman, we still have 2 months to go in this year, so it wouldn't be surprising to me if he signs even more.
Yeah, it seems to be saying.
Yeah, and like Dan Mann said, I wonder if his approval would be even higher right now without the shutdown. And I see a part of where that's going. I think a lot of people are starting to see through some of the crap, though, too. I mean, we sit and we look at on Twitter, all the Democrats are saying, well, the governments control every avenue of this. The Republicans control the House. They control the Senate. They control the White House. And I even said back at the beginning when I made my one-off video on the week that for reasons that came up that week that I couldn't do to contemporary, and I did a one-off video in its place, I said flat out, a lot of what's happening right now is a dare to break the filibuster so the tool is open an option for Democrats the next time they have the Senate to go back and run with a 51-vote majority. And John Thune is, to his credit, not falling for that, and realistically, he doesn't have to. Because the mainstream media and the people themselves are not sitting here pressuring him to get the government back open by any means necessary. They're looking and saying, hey, they need 7 Democratic votes to go back and turn this over. Why aren't we getting 7 Democrat votes if we want to have this open back up? So that's where they're at on that. And again, you can make a poll say anything that you want. You just have to choose your pollsters. But when you're getting to a point where you can't even choose your pollsters to give the narrative that you want, then I think there are a few people in the DNC that are probably getting a little bit nervous right now. All right, from ABC News, healthcare compromise appears far off as government shutdown stalemate persists. from Mary Claire Jelonik. The government shutdown has reopened a debate on what has been the central issue for both major political parties in the last 15 years, the future of health coverage under the ACA. Tax credits for people who get health insurance through the marketplace created by the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, expire at the end of the year. Democrats say they won't vote to reopen the government until Republicans negotiate an extension of the expanded subsidies. Republicans say they won't negotiate until Democrats vote to reopen the government. Kind of have some circular logic going on here, don't we? Lawmakers in both parties have been working on potential solutions behind the scenes, hoping that leaders will eventually start to talk, but it's unclear if the two sides could find compromise. As Congress circles the issue, a poll from the Associated Press, a Newark Center for Public Affairs Research, found that about 6 in 10 Americans are extremely or very concerned about their health costs going up in the next year, which is really, really weird given the fact that we are existing under a law called the Affordable Care Act. There are reasons, by the way, that this is actually happening, and some of it is on the Donald. This is going to be a very, very unpopular position for the majority of my audience. But yes, some of the reason that the healthcare costs are going up are because of things that Trump did to try to make the ACA more palatable to people while they sit back and fight over what to replace it with. I'm talking about the mandate, folks. Look at subsidies expiring, the politics of the ACA and what Congress might do. Passed in 2010, the ACA was meant to decrease the number of uninsured people in the country and make coverage more affordable for those who don't have private insurance. The law created by state-by-state exchanges, some of which are run by the individual states, to try to increase the pool of the insured and bring down rates. No, it was to try to force an increase in the pool. And it wasn't to try to bring down rates either. The actual, and I've read the ACA front to back 3 times, the actual purpose of the ACA seems to be to fail. To crush the healthcare industry under its own weight and then turn around and usher in single payer because we need to do something, otherwise people will die. There is no text anywhere in that 700-page monstrosity that suggests that that was meant to be a long-term thing. I hate to tell you that. In 2021, when Democrats controlled Congress and the White House during the pinko pox pandemic, they expanded premium help that was already in the law. The changes included eliminating premiums for some lower-income enrollees, ensuring higher earners paid no more than 8.5% of their income, and expanding eligibility for middle-class earners. When the hell does that start? I went without health care once the mandate went away for a very long time. Literally for the reason of the fact that when I did the math, when I added up what the premium was throughout the year, based on what they took out of my check every 2 weeks, and I was making 40 grand at the time. It was a good wage at the time. Now you can barely survive on what I make now. But I was making 40 grand at the time. And when I added the $7,000 deductible, along with what the premiums were, it was a full, almost quarter of my income was going to healthcare before I could even use it for anything major. I mean, yeah, okay, you got your checkup visits and everything else, but like, say a broken arm or something, God forbid. Or I had a heart attack. God knows those run in my family. Yeah, a quarter of my income was gone before anything started kicking in. That's unsustainable to me. I'm sorry. And I know it's worse out there for other people. The ACA is one of my most despised pieces of policy, and in spite of the fact that I've always agreed with the mandate of pre-existing care coverage, or sorry, coverage care. I don't know which way I'm trying to go with that, but the pre-existing conditions part of it, I do like about the ACA because, and I've been an advocate for this as well. In spite of the fact that I know that's part of what made it more expensive, the pre-existing coverages thing means that if, say you're a father, you go get a job that you hate because it means that your kids can have health insurance. And you work that job while you still go back out and look for new stuff, something else. We're in an economic downturn and it's the only job you can get, but it has really good health care. Your daughter gets leukemia, God forbid. Now, you're in this job that you hate, and you're stuck in this job that you hate forever because anywhere else that you go with your daughter having leukemia means that they're going to look at this and say, pre-existing condition, we're not going to cover your daughter. Good luck with your health care bills. I have liked the pre-existing condition thing because it's gotten some people out of very, very, very bad situations. And that's an extreme one that I brought up. It's one that I made up off the top of my head, but it kind of shows what the pre-existing condition change did and what the reason that I like it in spite of the fact that I'm hating the rest of the bill. But I also know that it makes everything else more expensive. A part of the way that it was written and the part of the way that it was planned was to try to make sure that people in their 20s, early 30s didn't use their health insurance because it was, as I pointed out, way too expensive to do so. So that the money that they paid in was in the pool to try to help hold costs down for people like the person in my example that I just made up. That was the whole point of the ACA, is to get young and healthy people to pay for health insurance but not use it. So the money would be in the pool for higher risk patients. That was it. And it's very clearly written in that bill. That's why they had the mandate, and that's a big part of the reason, as I said, that while I celebrated the fact that Trump brought the fine down to zero, and it continues to be down to zero, that is part of what made it more expensive because less people were paying in because they didn't have to worry about getting fined by the government to do so. Let's see. Palm says, I had extended coverage. Yep. Trump has learned from his mistake and is trying to solve or put ways to help people like money payment for the troops. Yeah, we'll be talking about that too, actually. There to mask the failure, egg on the face of Dems. The subsidies are making it more expensive, says Damn Man. Palm says, pre-existing coverage means your girlfriend won't bankrupt you the next time she has brain damage. Yeah, and that's another thing too. Like, without the pre-existing coverage part of it, it would be near impossible for us to get health care in our house. Once we go down to the courthouse and do things like that. So, I like the pre-existing coverage part of this. I hate the rest of it. I do. Always been an advocate of pre-existing coverage. That is very unpopular among the Trump people that watch this channel. Alright, let's see. The expanded subsidies pushed enrollment to new levels and drove the rate of uninsured people to a historic low. This year, a record 24 million people have signed up for insurance coverage through the ACA, in part, large part because the billions of dollars in subsidies have made the plans more affordable for many people. If the tax credits expire, annual out-of-pocket premiums are estimated to increase to 114%, an average of $1,016 next year, according to an analysis from KFF. Democrats extended those tax credits in 2022 for another 3 years, but were not able to make them permanent. The credits are set to expire January 1st, with Republicans now in full control. See, ABC slipped that little bit of propaganda in there, again, to try to make you believe that evil Republicans keeping the government shut down is the reason your premiums are going to go up. It was subtle, but it was there. So, and yeah, it doesn't look like there's going to be a compromise on this one. Kind of sucks because the original Republican plan was sort of a compromise, and we'd already be halfway through it. We'd already have 4 weeks of being able to negotiate the subsidies with the government open. I mean, that would make me sad, but it would make the average layperson happy at least. I don't know why I had this on here twice. But apparently, yes, government shutdown and Trump admin news. We looked at this one already. We read this one already. Alright, from Politico, the longer the shutdown lasts, the harder it is to mask. Propaganda piece from Politico still trying to place the blame squarely on Donald Trump. And it's getting harder and harder, by the way. The White House has tried to blunt the shutdown's impacts on Americans, but that may not last much longer. From Irie Setner, the White House has tried to tune the ongoing government shutdown so everyday Americans barely notice. No, everyday Americans barely notice the shutdown because the government, the federal government, for the most part, has very, very little to do with your everyday life. Your state government might have more. That will depend on you and your state. But the federal government really has very little to do with your everyday ongoing things. Though air traffic controllers are working, it wouldn't take much for absences among their ranks to disrupt flights across the country. National parks are open, but it's uncertain how much longer. The Trump admin is scrambling to continue to pay for troops, food programs for low-income women and children, Head Start and more. Well, they're not scrambling. They're actually doing it. The Trump admin is finding money and going and paying stuff. White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson acknowledged that the admin is working to mitigate the negative impacts of Democrat shutdown as much as possible. But we won't be able to stop all the harm Democrats are inflicting on the American people. She added, Democrats must stop this shutdown and reopen the government. Democrats insist Republicans are to blame. Hey look, I see Palm and Ed Jr. Look at her, she's all bundled up and warm.
She has the cutest coat,
Yeah.
and the cutest dress, and the cutest butt ruffles. So everybody knows she's a girl.
A reminder, of course, that until she is up to the age of reason, she will never be on camera until she can make the decision for herself reasonably.
Except for her butt ruffles.
Nice. The looming consequences of continued inaction could prove problematic for Republicans as they seek to shift responsibility for the shutdown to Democrats. Polls already show that Republicans are shouldering more of the blame than Democrats. Nearly 90% of Americans believe the shutdown is at least a minor problem, and more than half see it as a major one, according to an AP NORC poll out last week. And the longer the shutdown stretches on, the more cracks will form. As in the past, air travel is mostly unaffected, though sporadic delays due to staffing have been seen across the airspace. Air traffic controllers, considered essential workers, are working without paychecks, though the admin is exploring ways to pay them to avoid cascading delays that could afflict travelers nationwide if just a few call in sick. Last week, the Pentagon managed to pay troops despite the shutdown by shifting about $8 billion from its research and development accounts, but that's a temporary fix, said Speaker Johnson, who warned that service members would miss their next paychecks if the government is still shut down at the end of the month. Senators are now sparring over legislation that would pay active duty troops and some federal workers, though until the House returns from its recess, nothing Congress does can become a law. Yeah, I'm not in agreement, by the way, with the way that Republicans are handling this, in spite of the fact that it's the argument over health care and the thing that Democrats won't budge on that's at the center of this. Yeah, Republicans are just treating this as time off. They should be, at least for optics, they should be in Washington, if not in the bars, sitting there drinking with each other and laughing at the misfortune of the American people. At least optically, they can come back and say, hey, we're close to our offices, bring us a bill. The admin has tried to keep benefits for low-income women and infants flowing, using $300 million in unused tariff revenue earlier this month. But a top nonprofit said Tuesday the program would require an additional $300 million to keep it going past November, which, according to what we hear from the tariffs, we have. Although a handful of Head Start programs for low-income children and families were already affected when the shutdown began, another 134 programs are set to miss payments due to them on November 1st, according to the National Head Start Association. And the Trump admin may soon have to change how it's managing national parks, which are historically one of the most visible signs of a shutdown. Right now, national parks remain open and more functional than the last shutdown, when waste and trash piled up fast. But it's unclear how long that can continue, since that requires drawing from limited reserves that vary from park to park. We're borrowing from Peter to pay Paul here, literally, because we got to pull from non-appropriated funds like recreation fees to keep the parks open, keep permitting going, keep all the stuff going, and keep America going, Interior Secretary Doug Burgum said last week in a radio interview. You could solve a lot of that problem by delegating a lot of these parks to state control. Just saying. Like, I understand that the Grand Canyon, you can't do that because it's in like 4 states. But is there a reason that Yellowstone isn't entirely run by, what is that, in Wyoming? Alright. Let's check on the chat. Oh, we're doing some plans in the chat, aren't we? Damn Man says you don't hate the media enough. Quest says actually very little of the federal government's actually shut down. That's also a fair point, by the way. So everyone will get their food stamps. Yep. Right now. Which that is a state-run program, but it's held aloft by federal funding. Conversation about butt ruffles. My daughter's ass was in the camera. Montana. I thought part of it was in Wyoming, too. Let's see, FAA was already having problems. We should either get private contractors or use the military. Even Commie France uses the military for screenings. Wonder how that would go over, by the way. Bunch of guys with their M16s and camo scrubs doing your airport screening. Let's see. November food stamps are in jeopardy. Quest says most of the inconveniences, the shutdown, are the interpositions of the feds in state, local, and private matters. Concerned WIC is in danger. As of right now, it is not, but yeah, that's not going to last forever. By the way, if anybody does, and the link is always in the Discord and the X, If anybody wants to just go over and check Rumble, I'm curious what ads you get. Because I did get ads. I got a nasal spray ad and a knife ad this time through. But like, because I watch the Hex and Hammer on Rumble exclusively because BitChute doesn't work on my phone anymore, and that's the only way that I can see the new tech exclusives. I get the absolute cringiest ads on that. And I want to see what's getting played out or served out for my stuff. So if ever you get curious, go over to Rumble, see the ads, and put them in the Rumble chat. Just so I can see, you know, these snot-nosed kids are flipping their allowances on this one weird coin, this one weird trick. Hey, this one weird warm water trick does weight loss, and it's disrupting the entire industry. I get that kind of ads on Rumble. I hope you guys get better ones than that, especially on my stuff. I'd rather soldiers than Karanifas with bad attitudes at TSA. I can't believe I'm not on a no-fly list, by the way, speaking of TSA. The last time I went through TSA, second to last time, I'm sorry, because I was leaving for Midway. The second to last time I went through TSA, Midway to New Hampshire, the TSA agent was like looking like he was just gonna be a dick to me. So when he did the wand, he was starting to act like, you know, power trippy and everything, and I just yelled out as loud as I could, "It's a screening, not a date, Jerry!" I didn't get pulled to the side for that. And I didn't get on the no-fly list. I thought I was. I thought for sure that was coming. It would have sucked because I would have been in New Hampshire. The federal judiciary, including courts overseeing some cases brought against the Trump admin, is also seeing impacts after running out of funding to maintain the normal operations and work of roughly 30,000 staffers. 2 support agencies, 13 regional appeals courts, and 94 district courts, and a partridge in a pear tree. Some courts are furloughing staff for the first time in 3 decades, requiring others to work without pay, and even operating under a limited 4-day-a-week work schedule. In addition, the more the Trump admin attempts a novel way to paper over the shutdown's effects by shuffling around money, the more chances there are that these actions could draw legal challenges and fines. Shifting funds without an act of Congress is banned by the Anti-Deficiency Act, more than a 150-year-old law enacted to prevent federal agencies from spending money Congress hasn't appropriated. It also probably looks like it's a way to make an issue out of a non-issue because, yeah. There's that. Quest says, flying down to San Antonio in a couple weeks. Unfortunately, don't get to meet with Seawall at this time. Ed Jr. needs local hot cocoa and bagels in her life, so Pa must oblige. I wonder if that means I'm getting espresso, too. But yes, that is where we are at on Politico. Still trying to pin this one on to the Trump admin. Alright, from Axios. Trump sets a new shutdown record. You kind of start to see where some of the propaganda is going here. Rumble seems to have some issues over here in the UK. I did not realize you were in the UK. Well, welcome in from over the pond. That means we have 3 residents of the United Kingdom in the Discord. But one doesn't talk much. He got married and moved on with his life. Still a cool dude, though. Alright, federal funding gaps by presidency. Total duration days. Trump admin is now at 57, with Carter having the record previously throughout his entire admin of 56. Now, keep in mind they are counting both Trump presidencies together at this point, because it was 41 in the first. No, it was 35 in the first, and now we're 34. 34 in the first. No, it was more than that because the one was 35 by itself. Where are you getting this 57 number from? Because we're at 23 right now. Something don't math here, you guys. Yes, I would like some genuine New York City bagels. 6, 7. Anyway, Obama had 16 total days in his two terms. Clinton had 26 in his 2 terms. HW had 3, Reagan had 14, and Ford had 10. Trump on Thursday surpassed the government shutdown record previously set by former President Carter. Across his 2 terms, Trump is now overseeing the most cumulative days under a funding gap. The Trump admin has taken advantage of the government shutdown to advance its mission with federal bureaucracy, including cutting agencies and firing employees. As of Thursday, Trump has led the country through 57 days of government shutdown across his 2 terms. Of those, 36 were during his first administration. Yeah, this must be a couple days old because that doesn't math. Because, yeah, we had the one, and then we had a shorter one. I swear to God that was more than 1 day. Because the one was 35 days. I remember that because they made a big deal out of that. And we're on 23, so, 35 and 23 is 58 just by itself. The federal government counts shutdown days as starting after the final day on which budget authority was available, and ending the day before the new budget authority was enacted. But regardless, again, it wasn't really his choice on this. He wanted to go vote on the bill. Grab one from the New York Times, which is working again, by the way. Be curious to see what they have to say about this one. As shutdown drags and Trump flexes, Congress cedes its relevance. Not that there really had any to begin with. Uh-oh. Somebody's not happy. From Carl Halsey. By almost any measure, Congress is failing and flailing. That's not a bad thing. The government is shut down for the 22nd day, with many federal workers not being paid, agencies and museums closed, and top lawmakers making no serious effort to resolve the disruptive impasse. Congressional staff members have begun referring to themselves as volunteers. Again, where's the downside here? The House is quite literally ground to a halt. The chamber has not voted since September 19th, and Speaker Johnson refuses to call members back, preventing them from doing any legislative work. He has refused to seat a new duly elected Democratic member from Arizona 1 month after her victory, though he encouraged her to return home and work for constituents she does not yet officially represent, because he won't administer her the oath of office. As the Trump admin shifts billions of dollars around to take care of priorities during the shutdown with scant input from lawmakers, ignoring Congress's clear constitutional supremacy over the power of the purse, Republicans in control have done nothing to push back. And again, why would they? Nor have they made any move to exercise oversight of President Trump's legally questionable military moves off the coast of South America, his imposition and threats of tariffs, or anything else that has challenged the authority of their beleaguered institution. The Congress is adrift, said Lisa Murkowski, Democrat with an R next to her name from Alaska. It's like we've given up, and that's not a good signal of the American people. Since assuming office in January, Mr. Trump and his top aides, seasoned from their first stint in the White House, have aggressively and enthusiastically usurped congressional power with little resistance from the GOP leaders in the House and the Senate. In many instances, they have willingly ceded their prerogatives and cheered on the president. Even as the admin policies threaten economic harm to huge swaths of rural America that they represent, congressional Republicans have been mainly silent that Mr. Trump has unilaterally imposed and threatened tariffs to achieve his own strategic, political, and economic goals. Never mind, the Constitution gives Congress chief responsibility for levying tariffs. The admin has embarked on deadly military operations off the coast of Venezuela and Colombia without the consent of Congress, which is rich coming from the New York Times, who has supported airstrikes from Biden, Obama, and W, and no call from Republican lawmakers to scrutinize any of the oversight of the activities, even as the Pentagon cracks down on media coverage and communications with Congress. Yeah, crack down. Oh yeah, you're only allowed to come in here with the badge, so we know who you are. In a highly secured building that has classified information in it. Yes, no, we definitely don't want to know who you are in here. So, yes, this is basically the New York Times saying, "Oh, evil Trump is getting away with it. Why won't Congress do anything about it?" I don't want to listen to that whining anymore. Alright, second longest in history. See how it compares. We've already come back to... This is not the second longest in history, I'm telling you right now. Well, it is now because Trump has the longest one, 35 days. But yeah, until a couple days ago, Clinton had the second longest at 22. Alright, now we get to talk about some of what's coming out of this. And I promise we're going to move off of this here pretty quick. So, from NPC News. Government shutdown key dates, what happened and what's happening day by day. From Megan Leibowitz and Joe Murphy. The federal government entered a shutdown at midnight on October 1st when lawmakers failed to pass new funding bills. 22 days, 11 hours, 18 minutes, and 3 seconds, by the way. Just in case you were wondering how long this went for. After the shutdown began, certain programs and services went dark and federal workers faced furloughs. More programs are expected to be affected by a longer shutdown, and admin officials have suggested federal workers could be fired. Alright, day one. Government shutdowns, National Park Visitor Centers close, VA regional offices close, Social Security benefit verifications are suspended, certain small business loan approvals are now paused. Again, why wouldn't you do that locally? BLS ceases to release economic unemployment data, which is why, by the way, we haven't had any of that for quite a while. Maybe that's possibly affecting the way that the stock market is going because they don't have anything to work on. They're just operating as if it's status quo. It's possible. 100 messages today with Restream chat. Thank you guys. Day 3. By the end of the day, the shutdown will have lasted longer than 7 previous shutdowns. The Senate votes down stopgap funding measures, and the jobs report, which was scheduled to be released on October 3rd, is now delayed. On day 4, Great Smoky Mountains National Park resumes full operations. Day 5, the National Gallery of Arts closes its doors. Day 6, by the end of the day, the current shutdown will have lasted longer than 11 previous shutdowns. 9 shutdowns have lasted longer than the current shutdown. And the Senate votes again on Day 8. Senate votes again. The IRS says it was furloughing more than 34,000 employees, which is about 46% of the workforce. The IRS is also pausing certain services like answering phone calls. I'm willing to bet that's probably why I couldn't get a transcript appointment the other day, when we were flop sweat panicking trying to get everything done on the tax thing, because, well, I'll remind you that 2025 was about the wildest year of my life. And a lot of stuff happened in 2025, you guys. And I wanted to have my taxes done the second week of January. We will be getting them done basically as soon as I have W-2s in my hand. The next day, next year. Because I'm not doing that crap again, wait until the end of the year. To hell with that. That was way too stressful. Alright. Day 9, 7th vote. Day 10. EFTs and direct deposits for federal workers are scheduled to be sent on this day. Federal employees who receive pay through direct deposits will miss payments for October. The layoffs begin. Johnson designates October 14th and 19th as a district work period, meaning the House will not be in session. Let's see. Day 11. Smithsonian, research centers, and National Zoo close on day 12. And Trump directed the Defense Department to pay military members next week. Military members were expected to miss payments for October work starting on October 15th. Let's see. I want to go through to the stuff that's coming up. Alright, so on day 22, which is yesterday, by the end of the day, the current shutdown will have lasted longer than 19 previous shutdowns. Only one shutdown has lasted longer. The Senate rejects the House-passed funding bill for the 12th time. No local cocoa? That's lame. What about bagels? Day 24, which is tomorrow. BLS will release the September Consumer Price Index. It was originally scheduled to be released on October 15th. Federal workers who receive their pay through direct deposit will miss their first full paycheck, because they got a partial one before. And on day 31, possible lapse in funding for WIC. The federal government has said money would run out by the end of October. Later, the White House press secretary, Bubbleheaded Bleach Blonde, said the admin would move to transfer resources from tariff revenue to WIC, though the White House did not say when the resources could be transferred or how it impacted when WIC may run out of money. The National WIC Association previously said that mothers and children could face devastating disruptions in access to food if the shutdowns continue longer than 1 or 2 weeks. Day 32, possible disruptions to SNAP. Open enrollment for next year's ACA plans begin if Congress does not extend subsidies, as Democrats are pushing for during the shutdown. Out-of-pocket premiums will rise next year. Day 35, by the end of the day, this will be the longest shutdown. The previous record had been held by a shutdown that lasted 34 full days from December 2018 to January 2019. That's on November 4th. And January 1st will be day 93 if we went to that. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services could run out of Medicaid funding. The CMS website says CMS will have sufficient funding for Medicaid to fund the first quarter of fiscal year 26, based on the advance appropriation provided for the full year Continuing Appropriations Extension Act of 2025. I don't think that Democrats have the balls, by the way, to hold this out to the end of the year. I think they will cave before that. Because as I said before, I mean, if If Congress, the Republicans in the House and Senate were to come out tomorrow and say, okay, fine, we'll give you the ACA subsidies again, Eric Swalwell and Democrats are going to come back out and find something else to go complain about and try to sneak it in. Oh, the owner is sick. That's sad. She's a sweet lady. The House only needs a simple majority to pass the funding bill. However, the Senate needs 60 votes to extend government funding, meaning a funding measure would need to garner more bipartisan support. So, there we are at. That's what happens as we go. At least 25 states plan to cut off food aid benefits in November. Surprisingly, this is an intermixed number of states. Yeah, Quest says you can always file a 6-month automatically accepted extension on April. Subsequent extensions are subject to IRS and state approval. Yes, that's what we did. So, the story on that one, I'm just going to catch up to Quest on this. When my job got bought out by its new company, and no, of course, we are never going to say the company's names on air, ever. My job got bought out by a different company in November. Actually, the job that I was working before, it was an internal promotion when I got promoted. So I was with the same company at the time, but the division that I was working for previously to the buyout went to a different entity than the division that my current job went to. It was a really, really, really messy project. But in doing so, my W-2s from where I was working for the beginning half of 2024, nobody could seem to find anywhere. Nobody could get their hands on. Nobody knew where they were. Nobody knew how to sign into it. Nobody knew how to get that. And I mean, I started looking even before we bought the house and started trying to get advance copies of it because they actually needed them to close on the house. My mortgage broker, who is a saint, by the way, was able to go back out and get it approved and pushed through without those. But yeah, trying to get my income for the first part of the year was definitely a pain. And then with that being said, then it keeps getting February, March, April. I've transferred to a new location at this point. Nobody still seems to be able to find that W-2 from the first part of the year. And we get down to the middle of April, I'm like, okay, what do we do? So we got an extension filed right away. And then just life hit the fan in this house, and you know, next thing you know, we're at the hospital every other day, and then we spend a month away, and we get back and we start trying to organize stuff, and next thing you know, oh, it's October. What do we do? And yeah, like I said, that was way too stressful. That is not happening again next year. If it gets to be the second week of February and they're not filed, I'm going to be in somebody's office screaming in their face, where are my documents? Because, yeah, I can't do that again. That was entirely too stressful. Alright, anyway, back onto the cutoff benefits. From Grace Yarrow, millions of low-income Americans will lose access to food aid on November 1st when half of states plan to cut off benefits due to the government shutdown. I think it's more of they're planning to do it to make a point. "25 states told Politico they're issuing notices informing participants of SNAP, the nation's largest anti-hunger initiative, that they won't receive checks next month. Those states include California, Alabama, Arkansas, Hawaii, Indiana, Mississippi, and New Jersey. Others didn't respond to requests for comment in time for publication." Which is, Honestly, I'm a little surprised because it's a very healthy mix of red and blue states. USDA's Food and Nutrition Service recently told every state that they need to hold off distributing benefits until further notice. According to multiple state agencies, Mass Governor Maura Healey, a Democrat, told reporters at the state capitol on Wednesday that Trump is the first president in history to cut off SNAP benefits to people in America. Which, and again, I've never understood. I get that there are a lot of people on this, especially right now, but realistically, there's not a way that you can hold or use your own internal funding to keep this stuff going. I don't know how deep in debt these states are, admittedly. But because food stamps are administered at a state level, you've got to think that there's got to be some sort of discretionary funding in there that they can cover the gap for at least a little while. And again, I'm not expecting them to go to January 1st. First off, I don't think Republicans or Democrats have the balls to keep it open for that long, or keep it closed for that long, but there's got to be some sort of backup plan at this point. We do this every third year or so. I can't believe at this point that nobody's come out and said, hey, is there a plan B somewhere? You're not a wimp. It's 35 degrees out. Oh, let me check the weather. It's 38 degrees out. You're not a wimp for walking up down there in your winter coat. I mean, I might put a sweatshirt on. Quest says, I had my own IRS New York tax saga a few years ago. Took about 2 years and a lot of guessing to get it taken care of. All their mistakes. Boo. Nutrition programs like SNAP and another one serving low-income mothers and infants have been caught in the crossfire of lawmakers' spending negotiations, with the shutdown now in its fourth week. States are scrambling to maintain the programs using money from their own coffers and emergency funding from the Trump admin, but that plot is rapidly decreasing. The admin would have to find more than $8 billion with a B to keep SNAP afloat if the shutdown continues. Oh no, Republicans like Plan B. They just don't say it publicly. What do you think those congressional mistresses do? So they can't go to the news media. We just can't do it without the government being open, said Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins in a new News Nation interview Tuesday. By November 1st, we're very hopeful this government reopens and we can begin moving that money out. But right now, half the states are shut down on SNAP. Under SNAP, which serves more than 42 million people, families receive an average of $187.20 per month to pay for groceries. The pause of benefits would kick in just before Thanksgiving and add further strain on food banks and pantries during a typical busy season. So, and again, I think some of this might be a publicity stunt to make things hurt, but regardless, why can't we figure stuff out at this point? Another one from the Daily Wire. Hakeem Jeffries is big mad because Trump cut the legs off his narrative again. From Virginia Kruta. Hakeem Jeffries is clearly growing frustrated that President Trump continues to undercut repeated Democrat-driven attempts to pin the ongoing shutdown on the White House. Jeffries told reporters at a Monday press conference that he would not support standalone legislation to pay federal workers and military service members, despite the fact that Democrats have spent the shutdown going from microphone to microphone to blame Republicans for the fact that federal employees were not getting paid and complained that it was just a political stunt. Let's watch.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. This week, the Senate is expected to vote on legislation that will pay federal employees and U.S. service members who have been working throughout the shutdown. Do you encourage your Democratic colleagues to support this when it comes on the floor?
It's my understanding that that is not a comprehensive bill that actually is designed to reopen the government while at the same time addressing the issues that need to be confronted on behalf of the American people, which include lowering the high cost of living and decisively addressing the Republican health care crisis. So it's not legislation that I support because it appears to be more like a political ploy to pick and choose, giving Donald Trump discretion which employees should be compensated and which employees should not be compensated. All employees should be compensated, and that will happen when we reopen the government.
Are you anticipating?
Of course it's not a comprehensive bill. It's just one to make sure that the people who are actually working get paid so they don't lose their damn houses. Hakeem Jeffries, everyone. Apparently in Atlanta, we're having some issue with this as well. Government shutdown leaves downtown Atlanta restaurants struggling. We lost a lot of business. I just put this in sheer curiosity on how they were going to go with this. And full disclosure, I did not pre-read this article. From Leandra Head. Small business owners in downtown Atlanta say the ongoing federal government shutdown is taking a major toll on their livelihoods, cutting off a key source of customers, federal employees. Ah! That's how. Because federal employees aren't getting paid and they must be somewhere close to a federal courthouse or something. For Jasmine Jamil, the owner of Subs and Salads Junction in 4th Street, the slowdown's been dramatic. Before the shutdown, she says she served between 50 and 60 customers a day. Now she's lucky to see 15. With the government shutdown, we lost a lot of business, Jamil said. They're not even in the building or working, so they're not coming. More than 80% of the customers are normally federal workers from nearby government offices on Ted Turner Drive and 4th Street. With many furloughed or working from home, her shop's daily rhythm and revenue have taken a hit. I want to watch the video just to kind of see what these guys are doing too.
Helping her small business.
Sometimes we don't bring food and they helping us. They have good sandwiches and stuff.
Jamil says if the shutdown goes into November,
it's going to start hurting the business more.
Let's go back to the beginning.
Live from Atlanta, this is CBS News Atlanta at 11.
And I will be right back.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jobina Fortson-Evans. For the 12th time, the Senate has failed to advance a funding bill that would reopen the government. 3 Democrats voted with Republicans to move the bill forward, with no new Democrats crossing the aisle. The shutdown is now the second longest funding lapse in modern history. It's only trumped by the 35-day funding lapse in late 2018 into early 2019.
Day after day, Speaker Johnson has kept House Republicans on a taxpayer-funded vacation.
This is now the second longest government shutdown of any kind ever in the history of our country, and it's just shameful. Democrats keep making history, but they're doing it for all the wrong reasons.
Putting a strain on small businesses in Atlanta. Restaurants near federal buildings in downtown have been hit hard by this. And our Leandra Head joins me in studio with more on the story. And you spoke with some managers. I understand a restaurant owner. What are they telling you?
Absolutely, Jovina. Restaurant owners, they tell me they rely heavily on these federal employees as their key customer base just to keep their doors open. They tell me that they've seen a decline in not only foot traffic, but revenue as well.
Would you like something to drink, ma'am? For government shutdown, lost a lot of business. Give me that wheat bread.
Jasmine Jamil owns Subs and Salads Junction. Over 80% of her customers is normally federal employees. Before the shutdown, she would serve between 50 and 60 people a day. Now, she may serve about 15.
They're not even in the building. Wow. They're not even working. So they are not coming. She wants mayonnaise, lettuce, tomato. onions.
With the construction happening next door, she says the workers are helping her small business.
Sometimes we don't bring food, and they helping us. They have good sandwiches and stuff.
Jamil says if the shutdown goes into November,
it's going to start hurting the business more if they don't come back.
Here's where a few federal buildings are in downtown Atlanta on Ted Turner Drive and Forsyth Street, where thousands of federal employees work. The Subs and Salads Junction sits on Forsyth Street, and not too far away at Tide Take Kitchen on Mitchell Street, business was steady before the shutdown.
Most of our crowd for our lunches are federal workers. That's our business moment of the day.
But manager Jeff Watkin says the restaurant isn't seeing as much foot traffic.
Our lunches aren't as crazy as they used to be. If anything, everything's more stretched out during the day. We can't wait for the government to get back and bring us back our business.
He hopes there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
I definitely think it's a big impact, especially when it comes to small businesses. We are small ourselves. We kind of bank on paying our bills, getting paid, paying our employees.
Now, both restaurants.
So, and I mean, realistically, that's one of the things you got to watch too. Is as much as you may hate the federal government, federal employees buy food too. So, something else we got to watch as we go. Definitely. All right, let's keep going. I think we're drawing out towards the end of the government shutdown news. Actually, yeah, that was my last one on the government shutdown. I put the title card as talking about the No Kings protest, and then I didn't talk about it for an hour and 44 minutes. Alright, let's look up here. Number goes up with more kids. Hailey says the dude is big mad. Goats and Scarves has joined us. It says, Hakeem, if I move my hand a lot, it'll distract you from all the bullcrap spewing from my mouth. That's how all politicians work. That's not just a Hakeem Jeffries thing. How dare they pay the people for the work they've done? Pom says, Democrats are making history. These are both happening during Trump's presidencies. Quest says, they live off the leeches who suck us dry. I feel bad for this lady, but those federal workers shouldn't have been there to begin with. I do agree with the fact that the federal workforce should be about a tenth of what it is to begin with. Hailey says, man, that unlucky thing about not being born yesterday is that there's a thing called a filibuster. Alright, let's talk about the No Kings protest. And we're going to start with our friends over here at NPR. NPR giving us 3 takeaways from Saturday's No Kings nationwide protests. This is from Alana Wise, Shandelis Duster, and Emma Bowman. And don't forget, NPR is only 10% government funded, and that 10% may dry up with the government being shut down. So make sure that you hit that donate button, because otherwise they can't tell you that Donald Trump is a king. So hit that donate button. NPR is never printing reality. National Progressive Radio. Let's see what it is that they have to say. One of the biggest days of protest under the Trump admin's policies happened on Saturday. In cities around the U.S., the overriding theme of the marches was the accusation that President Trump is behaving more like a monarch than an elected official. It marked the second massive wave of protests organized by No Kings, a network of progressive organizations fighting against Trump's agenda. Organizers said about 2,600 No Kings events were planned across nearly every state, and it projected a bigger turnout than the 5 million it said attended the previous nationwide action in June. Which is odd because, I mean, I've seen some of the pictures and it doesn't look like there were 7 million people out there. Energized by a slew of actions taken by the admin since the summer, and also by an influx of cash from lots of billionaire big businesses, the group cited widespread immigration detentions carried out by often masked immigration and customs enforcement agents, the admin's aggressive slashing of federal education resources, and environmental protections, gerrymandering, and other concerns. Gerrymandering has nothing to do with the executive administrative office, but, you know. Here's a recap of how the protests unfolded. United in protest to protect America, protesters showed up to oppose a wide range of issues, including the admin's immigration tactics and its push for federal and military intervention in Democrat-led states as a way to tackle crime. I mean, that I got to agree with those people on. I understand it's being marketed as trying to protect federal agents while they are executing their duties, but that doesn't make it about right. D.C., demonstrators filled Pennsylvania Avenue near the U.S. Capitol, many holding signs that read, "No kings, no tyrants." Many people wore yellow, a color organizers say is to show unity. Also, the black lock was falling out of favor in America too, so that's part of it. Uriah Kitchen of Delaware, who attended the protest with his son Elijah, sold... Uriah and Elijah, really? Going full Old Testament on that one, are you? Told NPR, "We made a pledge of allegiance when we were in school, and this is what it's all about. This is why we're here. We're here to protect America," Kitchen said. Bernie Sanders of Vermont, an independent who caucuses with Democrats, addressed D.C. protesters in remarks slamming tech billionaires who he said have become richer and more powerful since Trump became president. Sanders singled out Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and the other multi-billionaires who were sitting right behind Trump when he was inaugurated. On the West Coast in San Pablo, California, Maria Floriano attended a No Kings event with immigration on her mind. Wearing a hat and shirt decorated with butterflies, she compared immigration to butterflies, saying, "Migration is beautiful and an act of courage." "We want them to know that there are people fighting for them, and not everyone feels that they're not welcome here," Floriano said, noting that the protest was held in the Bay Area community home to a large population of immigrants. The Trump admin and Republican lawmakers weighed in, because of course they did. Mike Johnson slammed the protest as a Hate America rally, and other Republicans have derided the event as an anti-American. Responding to NPR's questions about the protest, the White House spokeswoman Abigail Jackson said, "Who cares?" Trump was not at the White House during the protest, but on a visit to his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. Connecticut House Republican leader Vincent Candelora told Connecticut public that he considered the No Kings messaging of the protest divisive. He also doesn't share protesters' concerns, but supports the right to exercise the First Amendment rights. Which, that's the exact message that you have to have. It doesn't matter if their message is asinine, because a king, a monarch, a tyrant, wouldn't have a government that was able to be shut down by the minority party. That's not a king. Peaceful protesting with song and dance, yeah. Yeah, and like I said, the left can't meme. "You lost, Confederate flag. You lost, Nazi flag. You're next, MAGA hat." Jeez. If you drop the Confederate Nazi rhetoric off of this, I still don't think your messaging would be right, but I think it'd be more effective. Because you just keep repeating the same thing over and over again, and it's not correct, number one. I think it just dilutes your message. Alright, let's look at this. Not going to read that on air. Dan Man says, "You know, if Trump was a king, he might have less power." Speaking as a subject of the UK, yes, I can see where that comes from. Quest says, "I guess the original No Kings was a failure. They had to do it again." Supposedly 2,700 different protests. Apparently there was one in Eau Claire, which is the major metro area adjacent to where I live. I'm not going to tell you where I live, but I can tell you where the major metro area is next to me. You know how Parler got crushed by AWS, Chase, and others providing them services? Remza Martinez pointed out that such institutions could shut down the DNC's ICE tracking sites. Right, but they won't do that. Solid Bernie impression. The millionaires and the billionaires have made it so that I can talk like this and wave my hands out very wildly while I protest the government from my third and fourth home. Quest says at least the pro-migration lady has a point. Most of the protesters are just angry at Trump because of vibes. They can't cite policies or actions. In America, you're fully entitled to share your wrong opinion. You can't just get sanctimonious about democracy when you win. Quest says, I'm such a Nazi, maybe I'm there more based than I'd realized. Well, it's funny that that comes up, actually. I'm going to skip past the CNN article here. And I kind of want to go right to the Daily Wire article, because Republicans are ridiculing no kings. A striking new poll shows Americans aren't laughing. Well, again, you can make polls say whatever you want. But I wanted to get to this one here, because the Daily Wire actually went out and did interviews in the midst of the No Kings protest to see if people could explain why Trump is a king. Daily Wire team joined throngs of marchers who took to the streets of the nation's capital Saturday for the No Kings protest. Yeah, I have that video on here, by the way, just so you know. In D.C., a rally was the focal point of similar events nationwide meant to counter the authoritarian threats posed by Trump and his admin. Protesters came prepared with posters and costumes. Many of them had gone through media training and learned chants, songs, and dances to perform. But for all that preparation, many of the protesters the Daily Wire encountered couldn't answer what we thought was a simple question. If Trump was elected, how was he a king? Responses ranged from blank stares to Kamala Harris-style word salads and vague references to checks and balances. Deep in a hole, a self-identified he-she claimed that Trump was taking away women's rights to vote. When pressed for information, he-she said Trump has said that in interviews everywhere. Editor's note, he hasn't.
We're out here at the No Kings protest and we're asking all the important questions.
Such as, if Trump was elected, how exactly is he a king?
Because he is trying to take control of everything, like his checks and balances are not working, so he is just trying to completely disregard the Constitution.
He's trying to do whatever he wants. I don't know. I feel like a lot of amendments have been kind of overcome, like in a way that they're not supposed to be.
Yeah, which amendments specifically?
The whole
first one.
Yeah, the first one.
Trying to take away our
freedom of protesting.
I would say that it's because even though he was elected, I agree, due process, he got what he got elected fairly, sure, but he's doing things that make him a king, like he's taking away, civil rights.
That's a great question. I don't particularly think he's a king, it's how people are viewing him as.
Actively switching the levers of power in order to subvert elections.
And what does that mean?
Things such as, trouble coming up with words.
Yeah. A lot of these people have no idea what they're out there protesting. They've been told from a young age that any Republican president, member of Congress otherwise, is a tyrant, a dictator, etc., and they just come back out and repeat it. No Kings is part of an indivisible project, itself a part of Soros' Open Society Action Fund. The project was created to support the grantee's social welfare activities. The individual project was awarded multiple grants. More recently, they received $3 million from the Open Society Foundation. High-profile Democratic leaders, including Harris and Chuck U. Schumer, encouraged participating on social media and official statements. So, and yeah, a lot of these people have no idea why they're out there. It's great. Axios tailing Saturday's No Kings protest crowds. Because crowd size matters. You know, you remember when they said that, Donald Trump is obsessed with crowd size? Hey, we're up to 4, by the way. 16 more for the ukulele. I just checked over on the Twitch side. 7 viewers as well. Thank you guys. Alright. Goats and Scarves says, can she even spell Constitution? Decca is over here. Oh boy. So what civil rights now has Trump taken away? I bet they think blocking a street is covered by the First Amendment. It's possible. That is entirely possible that they think so. Tens of thousands of people turned out for the San Diego portion of Saturday's nationwide No Kings protest. But exactly how many depends on who you ask. Attendance numbers show the significance of a protest can mark events in history. Protest organizers say that about 50,000 people went to Waterfront Park on Saturday to protest Trump admin's policies, and about 80,000 turned out countrywide. Or countywide, rather. But how did they arrive at these totals? Organizers from Take Action San Diego published 2 papers on how they estimate crowd sizes. They use a fixed video camera, drone footage, cell phone video, and measurements of Waterfront Park. A video camera on Harbor Drive showed the number of people who walked by every minute, clocking 1,569 participants a minute for 31 minutes, a method that originates with Harvard's crowd counting consortium. Say that 5 times fast. Meanwhile, San Diego Police Department Lieutenant Travis Easter put the turnout at around 25,000, but noted the figure was a best guess estimate. We're getting different numbers using different estimates. The numbers were between 35 grand and 15 grand, so 2,500 or 1,000 rather looked like one of the easiest numbers. He told Axios, and 25,000 is not dead set. I'm pretty sure it was more than that. I don't know. I think that the way that they estimate the crowd size is they go with what the mainstream media needs to make it historical. They come up with the numbers beforehand and then publish them out. That's just me, though. Now we're debating CCW size. The easiest CCW size to carry is 12 gauge. Jon Stewart into the news. Jon Stewart says Trump is undeniably king adjacent after No Kings protest. I'd love to see what his justification was for that. Is President Trump the imitation crab of kings? That was Jon Stewart's take on the latest episode of The Daily Show, which covered the recent No Kings protests against the Trump admin. At the end of the segment, the comedian argued that Trump does have a lot in common with the king, including his lavish sensibilities and entitled mind. Well, right, but he would have that even if he wasn't elected to a government. That has nothing to do with government service. Maybe Trump isn't an all-powerful king, the kind who can do whatever he wants, Stewart said. But he's undeniably king-adjacent, king-esque. Moving for more. He's the imitation crab of kings right now. The I can't believe it's not king. So, by that logic, you would say that we don't have a king. Correct? And the ironic part is about Republicans complaining that he is being dubbed king is that in their minds he's already surpassed that title anyway and moved on to a much higher calling. He added before playing a montage of commenters praising Trump as a miracle worker and a savior. So if he's king adjacent, then he's not a king. Damn man says, then next he'll be an emperor, then a god emperor. Apparently I'm missing the witty logic of Jon Stewart. I miss the witty logic of Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart used to be an entertaining comedian. Because he wasn't constantly negative. And he spread it around. He even spread it around ineffective Democrats during the Bush years. Jon Stewart was an entertaining comedian before he focused all of his ire on one human being and turned that into his entire comedy. A man wearing inflatable Trump costume allegedly attacked on camera at Blue State No Kings protest per police. Well, if it was on camera, I'm not 100% sure why it's alleged, but apparently it's allegedly. From Jasmine Bayer. Aww, Fox News can't handle criticism. They locked their article. That's okay, we can watch the video. Oh, this must be somewhere in the Northeast.
Really? You're gonna attack somebody in a costume? You get the off. Get the off. You swear. Have a normal conversation, really?
Have a normal conversation.
Yo, really? You're gonna attack somebody in a costume? You get the off. Get the off. You swear.
At this point, I don't even care that I didn't get to read the article. Between the accent and everything else, that was actually hilarious.
So as the VP and his wife try to keep the peace.
Alright. Would you like to kill Nazis with me? FBI addresses threats of violence at No Kings protest. Now, important to point out that there was no actual violence, thankfully. I know how some of these group mind concepts can devolve into things. If one person does something, then it turns into monkey see, monkey do. Part of the reason that I always advise people not to go to a large right-wing protest, because the monkey doing, I'm sorry, the person leading everybody else for the monkeys to see and then do is typically a Fed. For legal reasons, it's alleged you're not guilty until the court says so. What the? I love that half that video, by the way, was just beeps. That was so Northeast, American Northeast. You can't even understand unless you spend a significant amount of time there. Fanning, you know what I'm talking about. Alright. Mary Margaret Olahan, White House correspondent for the Daily Wire, reporting. The FBI's investigation is aware of multiple instances of No Kings protesters explicitly calling for violence, the Daily Wire has learned. The FBI does not historically confirm active investigations, typically waiting until charges are filed or an arrest is imminent, while FBI spokesman Ben Williamson said that he could not comment on the existence of specific investigations. The FBI is committed to investigating and pursuing all those who threaten and perpetrate acts of violence. During the No Kings protest that took place over the weekend across the U.S., independent journalists and conservative reporters captured viral footage showing demonstrators explicitly threatening violence against Trump, Republicans, and top officials in the Trump admin. Many of these individuals referenced the death of Kirk. Christopher Sweat exclusive yesterday in Chicago, the perimeter of No Kings rally, activists speaking in front of a progressive Labor Party sign exclaims, "You gotta grab a gun, you gotta turn around the guns on the fascist system. These ICE agents gotta get shot and wiped out." Let's listen.
You gotta grab a gun! We gotta turn around the guns on this fascist system! These ICE agents gotta get shot and wiped out! The state machinery, that's a full display right there, has to get wiped out.
Oh goodness. Other video footage taken in Seattle by independent journalist Brandy Cruz shows an individual carrying a sign that reads, "Would you like to kill Nazis with me?" Asked who he defines as a Nazi, the man responded, "Stephen Miller is a Nazi."
Who are you gonna kill?
Nazis.
Who do you define as a Nazi?
What do you mean? It's pretty.
In this context, who's a Nazi?
Stephen Miller's a Nazi.
So you're gonna kill Stephen Miller?
If I had a chance, yeah, I would.
I don't know if that's something I'd say on camera, bro.
That's fun. This woman mocked and justified the assassination of Kirk publicly with glee is reportedly a Chicago public school teacher. Eric Doherty says she must be fired if so, which I believe that she was. I still don't stand by that, by the way. Because everybody's got to be able to keep the roof over their head. And it shouldn't be on a journalist to come back and make that decision. That is a decision that's between the school board and the teacher. Not something that people like us sitting out here should be able to make the determination. I mean, we can sit here and have the conversation about her fitment for office, but to say that she should be fired, again, that's a conversation between the school board and the teacher.
Hey! You ever heard of Ozempic, you fat ass?
I'm sure that was probably a little bit excessive too, though. Yesterday in Plattsburgh, New York, a liberal man wore an 8647 shirt and openly called for the President Trump's death.
Look at that shirt! Look at that shirt!
8647, explain it to me. I like the colors.
Kill the son of a bitch.
Kill who?
This 47th president.
Really? What's your name?
Dick Safer.
Glad we got that on camera. You know that's illegal, right? You don't threaten the president. You don't threaten anybody. But that's the problem with your guys' side. You guys get so emotional, you feel you need to threaten people. But don't worry, we're spreading love, and we're going to fix it.
Fuck you guys.
We appreciate you. God bless. God bless you. God bless. Hey, you need to find God. That's your problem. You need to find God.
So that's just a small smattering of all that. And lastly, before we go on to the meme video, No Kings movement hits Senate floor with Merkley marathon speech. And with Senate not being in session, Merkley made a marathon speech to nobody. From Al Weaver. The No Kings movement made its way to the Capitol this week as Senator Jeff Merkley held the floor for 22 hours and 39 minutes. From Tuesday evening into Wednesday afternoon, escalating the Democratic fight against President Trump only days after millions across the country protested his admin's actions. Merkley, a three-term senator, began speaking at 6:21 p.m. on Tuesday and held the floor until about 5 p.m. Wednesday in protest of what he deemed authoritarian actions by the president on a number of fronts, headlined by his deployment of the National Guard in Portland, Oregon. Again, there's no bill or anything that's actually out here getting voted on. This is like Cory Booker's big 20-plus hour filibuster that he had to nobody. He just sat there and talked to nobody for basically a grandstand. The speech came as the government shutdown hit the 3-week mark and highlighted how far the two sides are. Democrats dug in on their demands to attach an extension of the ACA subsidies to the funding bill shared by Merkley, while Republicans dismissed the speech as theatrics. Because it was theatrics. Now again, if you're out here trying to block a specific legislation as you go, then yes, you're being effective with a filibuster. But right now you're just holding the floor to say that you held the floor. Damned Man says, well, some people do like the sound of their own voice. 22 hours is a bit much, though. I've been on stream for 24 hours. I'm just saying. I've done that one. I did stream for 24 hours. We raised a bunch of money for the AFSP. Did they wear diapers when they talked that long? They might. But yes. This is 100% theatrics. We want to go back out and set a record. From NPC News, and I believe this is the last one on this topic. What was this one? Oh, yeah, no, this is some of the funding stuff as well. Trump posts AI video showing him dumping on No Kings protesters, and yes, he was in fact dumping. Troll in chief, apparently. Yes, you were part of that live stream. From Alan Smith. President Trump on Saturday posted an AI-generated video depicting him in a fighter jet, dropping what appears to be feces on U.S. protesters, including one Harry Sisson. If they want to set a record, could they just go for the shortest bill? No. No, they couldn't. That would be easy. The 19-second video features Trump wearing a crown and a fighter jet, labeled King Trump. He posted the video on the Truth Social account following Saturday's nationwide No Kings rallies that were organized in protests of Trump and his administration. We're going to watch the video. We're not a serious country anymore. Does the government even deserve to be open at this point? And of course, the video came with great weeping and gnashing of teeth. Alright, bit of an analysis. Brian Schellenberg on all platforms says, highest funded organization, New Florida Majority, now DBA Florida, Rising Together, received the largest total contributions of $11,200,770 with significant support from Arabella Advisors and Rockefeller Foundations. Lowest funded organizations, Free Speech for People Incorporated, received the smallest total at $20,000 solely from Arabella. So this is a bit of a breakdown, and I have this in the Discord if you want to go through the numbers on it. All of the people who funded the No Kings protests got the permits and got the initiatives out for people to go, did the advertising and everything else. And this was a very, very highly coordinated and highly paid system of protests. So if you want to know where the money comes from, it's right here in this chart. That is in the Discord, like I said, under this Twitter. Top funds sent to No Kings to partners, Arabella, $79,786,678. Warren Buffett Foundation, $16,682,000. Ford, $51,742,000. Rockefeller, $28,659,000. Soros, $72,117,000. Tides, $45,498,000. This was a almost $300 million event. Somebody asking if Buffett can collect a RICO charge. So that's there if you want to go and analyze it and see what you can draw from that one. Given the fact that we're almost 2.5 hours in, I'm not going to go through that one. Let's talk Prop 50. CBS News poll finds California Prop 50 support motivated by national focus and opposition to Trump. And also the fact that you can see through the envelope, apparently. A real estate agent that works out of California I follow on Instagram had actually, she pointed out the fact that her envelope for Prop 50 was transparent. Now, being in the part of California that borders Arizona, being more conservative, I don't know if that was region specific or what it was, but apparently, yes, it was a transparent thing. It's a state's ballot measure about redistricting, but Prop 50 has many California voters thinking nationally and a lot about President Trump. Those voting for it overwhelmingly say one reason for them to oppose the Trump admin, which they also feel generally treats California worse than other states and oppose national Republicans. Overall, those who see their Prop 50 vote as a national issue are backing it, saying, and that rationale is in turn helping to push the yes side of the measure into the lead. By contrast, those who see it more as a state issue are opposed. Those voting no are driven by a concern that redistricting would shift power away from the state's rural areas and towards the cities and cost the state money, but their views are outnumbered at the moment. So, bit of a TLDR on this one, a bit of a rundown. Prop 50 is the ability to suspend the Independent Redistricting Council that California just put in not that long ago, in order to let the party in charge, the Democrats, redistrict the state in order to counter Republican redistricting of places like Texas. It's supposed to be a temporary offering of power to the Democrat Party of California, but we know what happens when you give the government a temporary power. You never ever get it back. So essentially, this is going to turn into a permanent ceding of power from the independent council into a full-out Democratic-controlled map redistricting for the state of California. Let's see, Quest Fanning says Camellia Peterson and I discussed homeschooling. Damn Man says meme gold. Tom says I thought Trump wasn't a king. That's why Dems keep losing, they can't handle the meme game. If the government can't pay itself, how is the White House still turned on? I think that Melania Trump has something to do with that. Heyo! Would think that the utilities would shut themselves off. Quest Fanning says temporary, like the income tax. Exactly. Overall, those who see Prop 50 vote as a national issue are backing it, and that rationale is helping to push the yes side of the measure into the lead. So, if you're in California, vote your conscience on Prop 50. This is not one that you want to let go, so supporters are way ahead in fundraising for Newsom's Prop 50, but the race remains close. By the way, I would laugh if this actually got denied by California. That Californians, in their partisan nature, are still less partisan than the government itself, and realize what happens when you give the government unchecked power. And frankly, I think it's going to happen. I'm not even going to lie about it. California, listen up. Former President Barack Obama wants you to know that the whole nation is counting on you this November. Wait, should I have that video? Oh, democracy is on the ballot. The 44th president says straight to the camera in the latest advertisement from Newsom's campaign for Prop 50. The ballot question that asks voters to temporarily gerrymander California's congressional districts to favor Democrats. To temporarily. Republicans want to steal enough seats in Congress to rig the next election and wield unchecked power for 2 more years, Obama continues in the 7-figure ad buy airing across California. Referring to the GOP-led redistricting efforts President Trump has backed in other states like Texas, in spite of the fact that he has, again, nothing to do with them. As voters face a November 4th deadline to turn in their ballots, California's redistricting fight has reached a pinnacle on both sides, pour tens of millions of dollars on their final push to persuade and mobilize voters. The yes side has largely outraised and outspent its opponents, probably because it has outside money coming in, pulling in nearly $97 million, more than double the no side's haul of $42 million. That would make it, by the way, doubly hilarious if the nays have it. Still, recent polling shows the race remains close, and persuasion in the final weeks is critical for both sides, while opponents of Prop 50 are going all in on a good governance message and playing on most voters' unease with politicians drawing their own districts. Supporters of the measure are doubling down on anti-Trump rhetoric, and both campaigns are trying to turn out Latino voters, a key constituency that could swing the election. So, they're putting a bunch of money into it, and as they said, Barack Obama getting in on it as well. From Politico. Democracy is worth fighting for. Obama rallies California redistricting supporters. From Lindsay Holden. Barack Obama joined Gavin Newsom to rally supporters of California's Democrats' congressional redistricting ballot measures as the November 4th special election nears. The former president, during a Wednesday call with volunteers, painted Prop 50, a bid to change California's congressional lines mid-cycle and pick up 5 Democrat House seats next year, in stark terms. Damn Man says, brace for rigging. Are you saying something against the riggers? There's a broader principle at stake that has to do with whether or not democracy can be manipulated, or whether we're going to have a system that allows the people to decide who's going to represent them. Which is rich, coming from the fact that this is Democrat politicians trying to choose their voters. Let's listen to the message from one Barack Obama. Don't just take the paraphrasing from Politico. Let's take it straight from him.
A lot of us do not believe that politicians should choose their voters. They believe that voters should choose.
That's exactly what you're doing, though. That's the problem.
Who's going to represent them? That's the meaning of democracy. That's the foundation of our self-governance. The problem that we are seeing right now is that our current president and his administration is explicitly saying that we want to change the rules of the game midstream in order to insulate ourselves from the people's judgment. They want to change around the maps, not the way it's always been done every 10 years after a census. they want to do it before any election in which they're worried they might lose. They want to tinker around with it to see if they can give themselves an advantage. And it's brazen. They're not pretending that there's some other rationale to it. They're simply doing it because they think they can. And in those circumstances, I could not be more appreciative of the work that Governor Newsom and the people of California are doing in saying, stop. This is not how American democracy is supposed to operate. And that's what Prop 50 is about. And it has critical implications, not just for California, but for the entire country. The essence of Prop 50 is to say that if you are going to play that game, then we are going to try to counteract that abuse of the system. And as a consequence of California's actions, we have a chance at least to create a level playing field in the upcoming midterm elections.
So TLDR. Evil Orange Man is choosing his voters, so we have to go back and choose our voters and take the voice away from everybody else. The 44th President of the United States, everybody. Alright, let's talk about... Let's see, we'll talk about Bolton here, and then I think we're going to call it for the day. We'll skip the AWS outage. Luigi, well, let's go over just what we're going to skip here for the rest of the day. Amazon Web Services had an outage. It affected a lot of businesses. It didn't affect mine. Luigi Mangione was apparently attacked by ladyboys in Thailand right before the CEO killing. And in French news, somebody stole the French crown jewels. Those are the stories we're going to skip today. Let's talk about John Bolton. Gunther Eagleman, breaking the 26-page indictment, has just been unsealed, and it's huge. There are 18 federal counts. He's been indicted on the Espionage Act. Let's listen.
Yeah, so John Bolton was charged with 18 federal counts, and I apologize, I'm going to look down, I'm reading this, we're still just getting this. We have the first 8 counts are transmission of national defense information. The second set of 9 counts, that's counts 9 through 18, is retention of national defense information. And that looks like it's U.S. Code Title 19, Section 793D and E, which is part of the Espionage Act. Now, there was another statute that they were considering, and it looks like they've only charged him with those Espionage Act statutes, but we're still reading through this indictment. It's 26 pages long. There's a lot of background information here, and I apologize, but we're literally just getting this in right now, so I'm still reading through it.
Andrew Weissman, your first reaction.
Sure.
Yes.
So, yeah. That's going to be fun. And of course, all we're going to hear is, going after political enemies. This is one of the most entertaining news stories to me, based on the fact that if there was a Bush in office, the mainstream media and the left would be cheering for this. They think it's bad because it's Trump doing it against somebody who has spoken out against Trump. Otherwise, they'd be all for it. These guys, the Democrat Party hated this dude. While he was in the Bush admin, while he was in the Trump admin. But yes, as soon as he was out of the Trump admin and started speaking out against, he was their savior. He was the greatest guy in the world. I've at least been consistent on it. I hated him both times. From the John Bolton indictment, Bolton's personal email, which contained classified info, was hacked by Iran. Bolton notified the government of the hack, but he did not mention his possession of classified info and documents. Alright, so we have from ABC News, ex-Trump advisor John Bolton pleads not guilty to classified documents charges. From Pierre Thomas, Tia Humphreys, Catherine Falders, and Alexander Malin. Former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton pleaded not guilty to all 18 counts of an indictment charging him with unlawful retention and dissemination of national defense information. Bolton entered his not guilty plea Friday morning in a hearing in federal court in Maryland before Chief Magistrate Judge Timothy Sullivan. He was indicted by a grand jury Thursday on charges that he allegedly unlawfully transmitted and retained classified documents. The indictment comes on the heels of the indictments of former FBI Director Jim Comey and AG Letitia James as Trump continues what critics call a campaign of retribution against his perceived political foes. Which, and again, my big question here is, why are we not addressing the fact that he possibly actually had classified information? The focus is not on the fact that this is happening, it's the fact on who's doing it to whom. Not what actually might be into this. And yes, Bolton is innocent until proven guilty, and I'd like to see him have his day in court. Unlike at Comey's arraignment last week, Bolton's attorney, Abby Lowell, on Friday didn't offer much in the way of any preview of his defense strategy for the charges Bolton is facing. I've got an idea what his defense strategy is going to be. It's going to be evil orange man, Donald Trump, retribution, tyrant. Bolton appeared at ease throughout the hearing and responded to the judge's standard questions, asking him if he understood the nature of the charges and the potential penalties he could face if he is convicted. He was released on recognizance with regular release conditions and will have to surrender his passports to his legal counsel and is prohibited from traveling outside the U.S. until he gets pre-approval from the court. Bolton is charged with 8 counts of unlawful transmission of national defense information, as well as 10 counts of unlawful retention of national defense information. 7 of the transmissions allegedly occurred during the time when Bolton was serving as Trump's national security advisor in 2018 and 2019, while another document was allegedly sent by Bolton just days after Trump removed him from the admin in September of 2019, which is terrifying in and of itself, based on the fact that while serving as National Security Director, either the documents were stolen from him, as it says that Iran hacked him, or he willingly gave them out saying, hey, have fun. Either way, it's terrifying. 100%. The indictment accuses Bolton of abusing his position as National Security Advisor by sharing more than 1,000 pages of information and diary-like entries about his day-to-day activities, with 2 recipients identified only as Individual 1 and Individual 2, who prosecutors say are Bolton's relatives. Sources told ABC News the relatives referred to in the indictment as Individual 1 and Individual 2 are Bolton's wife and daughter. So, well, they're not going to have to go back and testify either at that point, so it's going to be an interesting case, and it's going to be one that I definitely want to watch. And I got one more here. This is 2 articles, but it's going to be what we call a story of 2 different outlets. House Judiciary Committee refers former CIA Director John Brennan to DOJ for prosecution. Now, and Fox News is coming out and saying that it's the Judiciary Committee is referring him as prosecution from Alexander Cook. We'll read this one. In a letter to AG Bondi on Tuesday, Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan referred former CIA Director John Brennan to the DOJ for allegedly making false statements to Congress. Jordan accused Brennan of lying in his 23 Judiciary Committee testimony by denying that the CIA used the Steele dossier in prepping the 2017 Intelligence Community Assessment on Russian election interference and falsely claiming the CIA opposed including the dossier. No thank you, Quest Fanning, I will not. Quest Fanning has suggested that I fornicate John Bolton. No thank you. The Steele dossier was a series of reports detailing Trump's alleged ties to Russia. It was compiled and delivered to the FBI in 2016 by former British intelligence agent Christopher Steele. So this is Fox News going down the list saying, okay, this is how the process went, this is what's happening, and the headline says is that the committee is referring this over to the DOJ. Watch how Politico puts this. If I can find my cursor again, there it is. One of the disadvantages of having 3 screens and having them on different sizes is you can lose your cursor sometimes. From Politico, and I want another screen, by the way. Once the tax money comes in, I'm going to see if I can get... I just bought one using a gift card from my work. That's partially to replace the one, well, it's entirely to replace the one that Palm loaned me when my left screen went completely blank. But now I have one in 1080p, and the other 2 are in 768, so now I want the rest of them in 1080p. From Politico, Jim Jordan, not the Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan himself calls on DOJ to prosecute ex-CIA Director Brennan. So Fox makes it sound like this is actually, they have a case, everything worked up. Politico makes it sound like Jim Jordan is going on a retribution tour. I'm not even going to pretend to know which one is which. I'm going to be completely honest. Maybe this is retribution. Maybe they actually have a case. Well, I'm going to let the facts come out and make the decision. Especially if he does get to have his day in court. I'll be fair about it. I'm against Republicans as much as I'm against Democrats. Full stop. Alright, let's head out of here for the morning. It's going to get to be lunchtime pretty soon. I haven't had anything except for a bowl of oatmeal at 6:30 this morning. It was dinosaur egg oatmeal, by the way. Yummy. Yeah, 77-inch OLED. Send one of those over here. My boss actually, in the independent shop that I worked in, which I think he kind of was money laundering through that place, but he had a 55-inch TV, 1080p TV, as his computer monitor, and he sat at his desk like you and I would. That was his computer monitor. Alright, we're going to finish out with things I like, things I hate. But first, we're going to do the rules of acquisition. Oh, Fanning, we have one more full window of stuff yet. Because now I get to entertain you guys with stuff that's either made me mad or made me laugh. But first we look at the rules of acquisition, the Ferengi commandments for their religion. Following these gave you the social credit you could take to the divine treasury at the end of life and bid on your next life. Every week we look at one of these rules of acquisition. We talk about how it is used in show, if it is not a direct mockery of capitalism, which they all actually were, just some of them inadvertently actually had real world stuff to them. Then we talk about how it can be used in real life. Otherwise, we talk about how they were used to mock capitalism, and we talk about how they were used in the show as well. So, where were we at? Alright, we are at the 123rd rule of acquisition this week. Even a blind man can recognize the glow of latinum. This is from the DS9 reference book, so this was not used in the show, but we'll talk about it anyway. There is a certain draw to money in capitalism. There is. This is one of those that was not, I guess it was directly mocking capitalism, but it still has real-world implications. Even the most foolish of us know that in order to do basic things like eat, keep the lights on, watch TV, or go baiting if you're watching Idiocracy, requires some level of cash flow and money. You're going to need to have a way to barter for the services and the things that you consume in order to continue to consume them. So yes, even a blind man can recognize the glow of latinum, the glow of the currency of the non-Federation members of the galaxy, who can then turn around and make this decision on how he wants to earn that and how he wants to spend that. So that one is one. It's more philosophical than a command, but it is the commandment. Remember that even those who are the most foolish among us can still participate in the capitalism, and actually can probably hustle you just the same. So even a blind man recognizes the glow of latinum. Let's do a few things that I hate. From American AF, breaking, Rosie O'Donnell has ordered a mass blackout where liberals will be skipping work for a week in an attempt to crash Donald Trump's economy. So, this is from Rosie O'Donnell's Instagram. We're not asking, we're shutting it down, mass blackout. But look at the dates for just a second. If you want to bring out your calendar, remember November 25th is a Tuesday. It's the last Tuesday in November, actually. To December 2nd, going back to the following Monday. Do you know what else falls between November 25th and December 2nd? No work, no spending, no restaurants, no projects, no events, no restaurants. Double on no restaurants, no backing out, prepare for the impact. First off, if you think that there's going to be no spending on Black Friday, because remember, I mean, they're going to say no work, where because these are rich, liberal, college graduate kids that are mostly going to be doing this. A lot of them are already going to be off on this week anyway. If not the entire week, then most of the week because of Thanksgiving. No spending. Yeah, Black Friday is going to really go with that. And no restaurants. Yeah, good luck with that. Let me know how that works out for you guys. I swear to God, they continue to plan these things where they're going to have the least amount of economic impact ever. Of course there's not going to be any work on Thanksgiving week, because 3/4 of the population is off work that week. Prepare for the impact. To prevent spike spending before and after the blackout, we ask that all participants purchase goods needed from community-owned stores and markets leading up to and after the dates. This helps with sustained impact and keeps our money out of the mega businesses' pockets. Yeah, tell American consumers not to spend on Black Friday. Good luck with that. Other things that I hate today. I did not cover the story last week. I looked at this and I said, the hell with it. For this reason right here, congressional aide pictured with swastika flag was a longtime Democrat. For those of you who did pay attention to the story, a congressional staffer for a Republican congressman was seen in an office in a Zoom call with a Nazi U.S. flag on the wall. For those of you watching on the video platform and on the audio platform, you can see the swastika in the flag, and people were trying to make all sorts of excuses for this. Oh, well, it's backwards, it doesn't count, it's this symbol, it's that symbol. Now, this was a young Democrat who was working as a Republican staffer who was looking for a way to do an interview and try to bust out his boss, and the Daily Wire went back and found that. This was a complete non-story from the beginning. Framed in a way to try to make it look like the Republican congressman was, in fact, a Nazi, proudly putting is symbolism on the wall. And instead it was a young Democrat activist who lied his way into the position. So, there was a reason I looked past this story, there was a reason I ignored it, and, well, fuck you, I was right. See, you don't sit here and try to get out in front of this stuff and try to make excuses and say, oh, it's a peace symbol, it's a this symbol, it's a Photoshop, it's a this and that, the next thing. No, it was definitely real. It was just a blatant, open attempt at sabotage. This was swastika flag in the office of Rep. Dave Taylor of Ohio, which had Burgum saying it might be an optical illusion. Nope, it was full-out sabotage. Speaking of things that are full-out sabotage, this one, which got community noted, and that's the reason I put this in things that I hate, because there's a lot of stuff to criticize Abigail Spanberger on, her record in Congress or everything else. You don't need to make up stupid shit like this. But this made the rounds, and it was thoroughly debunked by community notes. Breaking the alleged text messages showing possible CIA collusion between the CIA and Virginia Democratic governor candidate Abigail Spanberger, with the number on top, an iMessage, and this is, I mean, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's fake, but this is pretty damning stuff if you look at it here, saying that yes, the CIA is working with Spanberger to take down Winsome Earl Sears. But they have the number before every message, with just the number up on top. Now, I was using iPhones when iMessage came out, and I know Palm still uses iPhone, so I see iMessage over her shoulder. I know for a fact that the phone number, unless you're in a group text, is not listed before every message. This was a Photoshop and a fabrication. Readers added context they thought people might want to know. This iMessage leak is a clear Photoshop AI fake. Red flags elongated. Pixels versus iPhone Pro Maxes. Different pixel setup. Wrong horizontal resolution. Repeated sender numbers is a dead giveaway. It's not iMessage. Wrong font. So yes, this was a fake, and you don't need to make fakes again like this. You can literally just call her out on her record. She was terrible on Congress. Go for that. Not making up an iMessage scandal. That is moronic. From the Daily Wire, top state election officials urge Congress to protect elections from non-citizen voting. Or, since that is something that's expressly delegated out to the states in Article 2 of the Constitution, you could just go and do your goddamn job. Top state election officials, that's your job, not Congress's job. The Constitution actually forbids Congress from getting involved in it. You morons. Leif LeMahieu reporting on this one. I'm only going to read a little bit of this. I've already picked it apart in the headline. A coalition of top state election officials, led by Mississippi Secretary of State Michael Watson, urged congressional Republicans to require federal election officials to mandate stronger citizenship protections for voter registration, according to a letter obtained by the Daily Wire. But you're literally the Secretary of State. That's literally in your job description, Michael Watson. Watson and 10 other GOP secretaries of state urged Republican leadership in the Senate and House to pass legislation requiring the U.S. Election Assistance Commission to change the current federal voter registration form to demand proof of citizenship, rather than relying on an applicant's word. The Republican officials said that the federal form made it more difficult to ensure that only American citizens were voting in elections. Again, that is your job. It is your job to regulate your elections. It's not the federal government's job. That is literally on the top of list of duties of the Secretary of State in a state. Each state requires that to vote, a person must be a U.S. citizen. Unfortunately, the EAC has consistently refused to change the form to require proof of citizenship, preferring a general attestation instead. Watson wrote on Monday, as our state's chief election officials, we respectfully seek your help in fixing this persistent problem. Again, that's your job. The letter was addressed to John Thune, House Speaker Mike Johnson, Senate Rules Committee Chair Mitch McConnell, and House Admin Chair Brian Stile. Formerly my own representative, actually. He's a moron, too. Of course, you have to be a pretty big moron to fill the shoes of Paul Ryan. So, state officials deferring themselves to the federal government. Why do we keep doing this? Why do we keep doing this, by the way, too? Speaking of Mitch McConnell. The Krappensteins with a video because Mitch McConnell has fallen down again. Oh, I've fallen and I can't get up. I get that polio is a hell of a disease. I do. Guys, we gotta be doing something different about this. It's time. You get Nancy Pelosi kneels down to protest for Black Lives Matter and can't get the hell back up. You get 3 instances of this. I don't agree with an age limit, but can we have a health screening or something? Pretty please? Can the people of Kentucky do something about this? I gotta go back and address this, what Quest Banning just said. I remember thinking Ryan was going to be so much better than Boehner. With his record as a legislator, he actually probably was. I lived for my entire adult life in Paul Ryan's congressional district. Basically from the time I turned 18 and moved out until, well, let's be completely frank about it, I did that until 2022 when I moved back over to this side of the state. Paul Ryan was a great legislator. He was a great representative. He talked to the people. He came out. He did town halls. He listened. He voted in accordance with the people. He could be bipartisan when he needed to be. Paul Ryan was a fantastic legislator. But he turned into an asshole as soon as he became the speaker. He turned into a prick. He turned into a all about me, all about power, all about Paul Ryan. As soon as he took the gavel. If Paul Ryan had stayed a representative and not taken up the speaker's gavel, he'd still be in Congress to this day. I can promise you that. And he'd still be well liked. He'd still be getting reelected in his district. And people would still be calling him a Nazi in his district. And in District 2, right above his district. But he saw the writing on the wall. People couldn't stand him anymore once he was the speaker. The AI argument, of course, is going to land on things that I hate. Suzanne Summers' AI clone debuts 2 years after her death. Fans will be able to interact with the AI chatbot on the late actress's official website. No. Bad. Let the woman's spirit, her identity rest. She gave us 40 years of great comedy, several unforgettable roles. Suzanne Summers died 2 years ago, but her husband, Alan Hamel, insists that fans will be able to interact with her again by an AI clone that he says is amazing. Hamel and Summers were together for 55 years before she died in 2023 from breast cancer. It was Suzanne, and I asked her a few questions, and she answered them, and it blew me and everyone away. The 89-year-old widower told People of the AI-generated clone meant to resemble his late wife. Yeah, this is a person who just cannot move on. This is just as bad as the online simps who are going to look at this and think that they're actually having a relationship with Suzanne Summers, who fall in love with Siri. People like that. No, damn man, this cannot be healthy. Quest Fanning says, is he going to monetize? That would literally be the only way that this would make sense. But this sounds an awful lot like a husband that just cannot move on. When you look at the finished one next to the real Suzanne, you can't tell the difference. It's amazing. And I mean, I've been with Suzanne for 55 years, so I know what her face looks like. When I just look at the two of them side by side, I really can't tell which one is real and which one is the AI he added. Let's not do this. This is horrifying. Palm, do not make an AI clone of me if something were to happen to me, please. Just let me be gone. This is terrifying stuff. This is the kind of stuff that leads to Skynet, dude. Alright, a couple other things, and then we'll move on to things that I like. City of Eau Claire updates social media commenting policy. Wisconsin right now hitting the nail on the head, because City of Eau Claire has shut down the ability to comment on their posts on social media. In other words, we don't want to let you criticize your government. Cornerstone of our democracy is being able to openly criticize the government in the town square. But it should be open. It should be there for you. And yes, a lot of the people that do it are jerks. I get that. And they're saying horrifying racist stuff. But when you weed those ones out by going in a sweeping motion, you weed out people who actually also have legitimate grievances with the government. And that just is not right, folks. Russia, of course, is flexing with nuclear drills because we can't find peace in that region either. So we're one step closer to World War III and a nuclear war. Wasn't Trump taking a court over blocking people? Yes, he was. Some more things that I hate, just some stupidity here. James Fleming Cleve of We the People says 4 steaks, $110. Trump did this, showing a nice choice ribeye for $109.57. 4 of them. See if we can actually zoom into this here. Open image in a new tab. So if we look here, USDA boneless USDA prime, $109.57. That's $20.99 a pound. For 6 pounds of meat. 5.2 pounds of meat. Sorry, I misread that. And I mean, it's pretty horrible right now because it must just be buying this, so this must be coming out under Trump's policies for one of the, of course, the best cuts of meat out there. This is prime, except for the fact that if you look over here, right to the right, you can see where the dates were supposed to be, the sell-by and the pack-on date on the package are blank. But if you look next to there, packed on March 4th, sell-by March 7th. So this is an old picture from while we were still under the inflation of the Biden policy. Now, steak is still not cheap, don't get me wrong. And looking at something like that, even coming from Kirkland, top choice, you're probably going to be north of $90 for this package. I'm just going to come right out and say it. we smelling hot dogs from? Yeah, we just had Five Guys the other day. It was great. What's up? No clue where we're smelling them from. Yeah, they just sit and make up a narrative on this stuff. Let's see. Couple more, and then we'll do things I like, and then I'm gonna get up and pee, because I gotta pee. Alright, Phil Levante, lead singer of All That Remains. This is not good at all, pointing out a post from Glenn Beck saying we do not want 5,000 per ounce gold, but it looks as though we may be getting it anyway. This is not good, because, yeah, if the currency is devalued that badly, 5,000 an ounce isn't the panic point, but you're moving towards the panic point. Once you get to 6, 7, 10, somewhere in there, then yeah, you're pretty much going to be wiping your ass with dollar bills. So, and currency is already becoming devalued anyway. Our local gas station chain, Quick Trip, no longer uses the penny. Now, they use the penny if you're doing card transactions still, when tax is calculated and everything else. But if you're paying cash, they don't carry pennies anymore, so they round it down, and they always go down, which is nice of them. So once your tax is calculated at the end of everything, say you buy your bottle of soda for $1.99, you get taxed Wisconsin, you come out to, well, $1.99, but you'd still come out to $2.05. No, $2.11, I'm sorry. So you got your $2.11 bottle of soda here. They would write off the penny and bring it down to $2.10, so they don't have to do pennies if you're paying for cash. So they wouldn't have to give you the 4 pennies back. They only go to the nearest fives if you're on cash. If you're paying card, it stays the same. So they're going to make up some of this and hold up to some of this, but yeah, the currency is already pretty much becoming worthless at some points. But yeah, we're climbing up to the point where wipe your butt with a dollar bill. And one more on things that I hate. And this is just kind of the way that the media spins and holds stories in and out when it's something they do or don't want to talk about. Have you forgotten about Irina Zarutska? They want you to, here's why. And it's plainly simple because it doesn't fit the narrative. It doesn't fit the story that they're trying to tell, and yes, especially with the Trump admin being the way that it is, they can sit and force story after story after story down your throat with no pause until you forget about the story that's there. So, yes, they want you to forget about this, and they have the ability to do so, unfortunately. With all that, let's do some things that I like. Apparently I put something in the wrong place here, but yeah, we're going to just go down with the things I like from here and call it a day. Bill Maher says he'd like to sit down with W. Given the fact that Bill Maher was the way that he was under the W administration, tells me that yes, Bill Maher is looking at the insanity of everybody that we don't like as a Nazi and starting to see the light of, hey, maybe we should start looking into some of these people individually instead of grouping them by political party. And yes, people seem to like W at this point because he's not evil Donald Trump. But Maher also saying that he would sit down and talk with evil Donald Trump as well. Let's see if this is queued up for audio. Otherwise,
said
yes.
In the spirit of...
So, yeah. With Bill Maher basically saying all the same stuff about Bush that progressives now say about Trump. To hear this it's a huge move and position on this. And Maher has become more of, we need to stop some of the fighting and bring some of these people together and have the conversation instead of just shutting everybody down that we don't agree with. Let's have a listen to what Bill Maher has to say.
of like keeping a completely open mind. There is every chance, I would even bet on it, that in 20 years or 10 or 5, I don't know, somebody will put out an article talking about how smart it was to go into Iraq. Because one thing you can always count on is revisionism. I'm not there yet, but you know, the Middle East is a very fraught, weird, dangerous place where the world could end for a number of different reasons, and it's fucked up in a lot of ways. And, you know, again, I wasn't for it, but we don't know what the future will hold and how it will make things in the past.
We don't know what the balance will be.
I mean, it was a very Texas reaction. You know, it was like, they kicked our ass, we're going to kick their ass.
Somebody's ass is getting kicked.
War. Where? I don't know. I'm not a detail guy.
How about,
you figure out where.
Nah, you know, he would...
No, it was the wrong country. It was a country that did not attack us. But let's not get into that.
Let's get into that. That would be really fun.
Iraq did not attack us. That's why it was crazy. It was like...
Did you see the pitch at Yankee Stadium? Did you see that pitch?
Did you see...
Country comes together on a pitch. One pitch.
And he can pitch.
He could pitch.
I could do that too.
What a moment.
I saw 50 Cent pitching again.
Oh my God.
He's the worst.
Terrible.
Terrible.
The Cubs game.
Well, there was one he did like 5 years ago that was just way beyond embarrassing. And then he did one that was just better, but still awful. I could pitch. I could throw a ball to the home plate. I'm not saying I can get batters out, but it would look like a major league pitch.
Can you throw like a...
Oh, fuck yes.
Yeah, you can throw like a man?
I mean, Aaron Rodgers was here. We went out here.
You and Aaron?
Yeah, out the door after the show. And I picked, there's this fruit tree out here, and they're not, I don't know even what that fruit is, but it's hard as a fucking rock. You couldn't eat it even if you wanted to. And there was a tree, it's like 50 yards down. And like I'm always, whenever we walk up there, I always say to my girl, I can fucking hit that tree from me. And it's a long way and a hard piece of fruit, and I dead center it every time.
And you did it for Aaron Rodgers?
Yes.
Earned his respect. Probably had it before. Are you a Giants fan because of Jersey?
Totally.
Me too.
Never stopped.
Jackson Dart. No, me neither.
Well, let's wait. It's one game.
Malik Neighbors is gone.
Well, I guess that's more of what his opinion on W was. But he goes on, I was hard on Bush. I'm not taking it back. I wasn't for the invasion or just the basic Republican policies that he championed were not exactly my cup of tea. But I also have things more in perspective. He should know that, yes, I probably looking back, I could have been more reasonable. Maher did say that he was not totally opposed to Bush's idea to privatize Social Security. It wasn't like the worst idea. So, Maher coming together and trying to turn down the temperature, I think is a good thing because, yeah, I mean, the way that he was before, it's just like listening to MSNBC and progressives now, so. Other things that I like. From modernity, massive numbers of Americans turned to Christianity amidst leftist violence and moral decay. Now, the authors of this article want to say this because, you know, it's a Christ is King moment, and it's just Christ taking over, and this means great things and a wonderful time. And that's not what's happening. I'm going to come out and tell you this right off the bat. I like the way that it's getting out to the end, but I'm going to be completely realistic. When I was younger, to be a Democrat was counterculture because all of your big institutions had a conservative bent to them. And some of that came from tax breaks, and some of that came from, you know, the billionaire propaganda that came to us, and the fact that the Republican Party was for the rich. But it also held up Christian values. So if you were for the rich, then you were also for these same values because you were all lumped together. But with the liberalization of the institutions and a lot of more billionaires putting more money into Democrat causes, mostly so they don't get protested by young millennials or older millennials at this point, and, you know, have signs out in front of them for supporting Democrats or for supporting Republicans, etc. Yes, there was, and I think it was from threat of force, a major liberalization of the institutions, but it's also made conservatism, Christianity, a sort of counterculture. Let's be realistic. That's how Christianity was founded. It was a counterculture versus the Roman influence of Caesar in the region when Christianity was founded, but also from the Pharisees, the staunch Jewish religious authority at the time. In both directions, Christianity was a counterculture, and it is becoming one again. If you don't worship the government, then you're some sort of Nazi. If you would rather be Christian and conservative, then you're a Nazi. You're a bad person. We don't want you in our society. And that's what's pushing it. I mean, it's coming to the same conclusion, and yes, kids are going to get saved over it. Unfortunately, they're going to grow up. The Zoomers are going to grow up and try to force it on their kids, and they're going to go to a more liberal counterculture. Again, the pendulum swings back and forth. It's done it 2 or 3 times in my lifetime. But I am glad to see that the outcome is there right now. Trump says he's seeking damages against the DOJ, says any money will go to charity. While I don't necessarily like the idea of using the government to go after your political opponents, what I do like to see is it's a roadmap for people who are actually wronged by the DOJ and its enforcement policies to go back and do the same. And then Trump, because he's Donald Trump, with all the money in the world, is actually putting any of the proceeds that he gets from the lawsuit, into charity, rather than going back and lining his own pockets. Now, the people who are wronged by the DOJ, unfortunately, the damages otherwise are probably going to have to go back into their pockets just to recover for lost wages and lost lifestyle. But I like that there's a roadmap to actually get some wrongs righted here. And some people are not going to make it. That's reality. JD Vance says, promised no boots on the ground in Gaza. Given the fact that this is a Middle East conflict, that's never a promise, but the fact that the administration is trying to hold on to this, I'm very, very happy about that. And I'm going to grab one more here. I'll check the live chat, and then we'll head out of here for the day. And that is this take from Elon Musk. DJ Cow has posted you can power all of America with a tiny dot in the desert, which I guess I didn't realize that Missouri and Nebraska were in the desert. Typically that's all farmland right there, but hey, I've never been there, so who am I to know? I'm sorry, that's Kansas, not Nebraska. Wow. I have been going way too long that I mixed up my states like that. Regardless, that is a major amount of land, first off. I have some problems with this, but I like the idea that this is still being conversed about. We are not to the point of making our entire energy grid on solar yet. We don't have the technology. But people like Elon Musk are going to move us into the technology. They're going to innovate. They're going to pay people to innovate. And it's a possibility to do so. I'm not one of these oil baron conservatives that think that all renewable energies are horrible things. I know the limitations of solar panels. I know the toxic chemicals that go into making them. And the fact that they're all coming out of China currently also is a nervous point for me as well. The thing that I don't like about this, I like the idea that people are trying to find ways to make our energy grid so small that we can put it in a little part and then expand out to the rest of the world, to the rest of the country, and only have to worry about putting stuff into this small little area. The problem, of course, is that because we have enemies in this world, if all of our energy production is A, all in solar, and B, all in one place, then that's the place that you want to go and drop the bomb when you want to cripple the country. But yes, if we got the technology, if the solar cells got better, got less toxic, we got better ability to position them, then I do think that yes, we can take a lot of strain off of our infrastructure grid and be more self-sustainable as well. Be more energy independent. I'm not a big fan of wind just because I know that the amount of coal it takes to make one of those towers more than offsets the amount of energy that you get out of that tower. 100% more than offsets. Hydro is a good one. I like hydro, especially growing up on the Mississippi River. I think that's an intelligent way to go back and do stuff. And I do think it's intelligent to go back and have coal, natural gas, and yes, even nuclear as backup plans. I would support nuclear as our primary, honestly, form of energy. But the fact that people are looking for ways to innovate this and make this happen, and it's Elon Musk, perceived conservative, is one of the people that's leading the charge. I'd like to see more of this, I really would. But we can't put all of our eggs in one basket either, and we do have to diversify. Because if you put all your eggs in one basket and put your entire energy infrastructure between Missouri and Kansas, then yes, when it all gets taken out, you're screwed. Anybody who's ever played StarCraft can tell you that. Alright, guess what time it is? It's time to get off of this chair. That's right, and I can do the outro music with a single button now as well. That is one of my favorite parts of this entire thing. Alright, everybody, we're out of here. Thank you so much for coming by and hanging out and talking about the news and keeping the chatter going. As promised, I remind you that if we get 20 subs before the first one expires, so 20 continuous subs on Twitch, I take this beautiful Frozen guitar with Anna and Elsa and Olaf on it, and I will play the Hawaiian version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow right here on stream. I will learn how to play ukulele because I don't know how to play. Well, like I said, I'm going to teach myself how to do it no matter what, but you guys won't hear me play it on stream unless we get to those 20 subs in 30 days. So tell your friends. Absolutely. It's beautiful. It's emasculating, but it's beautiful, and I will do that for money. There's no limited things that I'll do to try to help put more money into my household. So keep that in mind. Thanks so much for watching, hanging out, and talking about the news with me. You guys had a lot of good input today. I was very happy to see that. If you missed any of this, of course, or came in late, the YouTube stream will be privatized immediately. New link will follow shortly. This will be re-uploaded as a video, so if there's any drop or connection issue, it'll be taken out of there because that's recorded straight off my microphone. And we'll be going up on the audio platform as well. Spotify, you can go check us out there. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of the day. We'll see you next week for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.